Yo, this is Set with Set Media, man. I'm here to talk to you about our partner, Kalshi. Kalshi is the largest legal prediction market in the United States with over 1 million users. It's available in all 50 states. They are a real money market, people trading on what they think will happen. You can build a position and trade in and out of almost any prediction you think. Kalshi facilitates trade between people kind of like the stock market. There's no limiting your trades just because you're winning. Kalshi will pay you interest on your position. So if you make a long-term trade, you can earn a return even before the market is resolved. If you want to try out Kalshi, go ahead and give them a try, guys, at my link, kalshi.com/setmedia. Get $20 when you trade 20, so it's 20 for 20, guys. Once again, that's kalshi.com/setmedia. Go ahead and use my code setmedia to get $20 when you trade 20. Let's go ahead and take a look here at Kalshi, because like I said, it is a trading market where you can put in your prediction and you can go ahead and earn interest on that. You can make money off the knowledge that you know, and if you put $20 in, you get $20 back. So all right, guys, make sure to go check out my guy at Kalshi, because you can get in on good trades like who will Trump nominate as Fed chair, will Ali Khamenei be outed as the supreme leader, and will the US confirm that aliens exist before 2027. So if you want to get in on this action, once again, go ahead and go to my partners at Kalshi. Go ahead and use the link, or you can hit the QR code above and use Set Media to go ahead and get $20 when you trade 20. This is Set from Set Media, and shout out to Kalshi. And yo, we are live. Yo, this is Set with Set Media, guys, and I'm back with another one for you. All right, guys, we're about to get right into it, because, of course, we're going to get into this Trump slush fund for lawfare abuse. Then we're also going to get into, well, this whole Thomas Massie election problem. Well, everybody's freaking out about it. People are starting to say that it's rigged. People are starting to say that, oh, why they dumping so much money into an election? And we're going to get into that again. But all right, guys, let's not forget to like the video. And we're going to go ahead and start off with our guy Trump here, because, you know, he is feeling the heat from the Iran war. Things haven't really been going his way. And trust me, every time he comes in front of the press, he gets grilled on it. And when he hits us with the same tired line of, well, Iran can't have a nuclear weapon. Yes, a nuclear weapon that they wasn't going towards, nor that we have proof of them going towards. But hey, you'll just have to deal with the higher gas prices. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get into it.
Just watching, we have big news on Cuba, as you know, with the indictment of Castro. So they've a lot of people have suffered very at levels that few people would understand. And I think the Cuban population of Miami, and certainly beyond Miami, people that came there that were decimated, whose families were ruined, appreciate what the Attorney General just did today and was just doing now. He's just watching it. So we have Cuba on our mind. Very important. It's been a lot of problem for a lot of years, and this was I think it was a very big moment for people that, not only Cuban Americans, but people that came from Cuba that want to go back.
I'm gonna be so real with you. I didn't hear about, like, honestly, we kind of picked this stuff up back with Cuba. Let's just not play dumb here. We low-key picked this back up with them. I don't even know what he means by, oh, this has been going on for years. Well, honestly, you kind of been pretty aggressive towards them with the blockade and all that good stuff and sending them into a fuel crisis. I mean, let's be real. If we're going to go ahead and get rid of that leadership, then let's do it already. Unless there's, you know, something on the ground going on that makes it, you know, not such a smart idea.
To Cuba, keep people that want to see their family in Cuba. I think this is a very big day, very important day. They supported me to the nth degree. They supported me at levels that nobody's ever seen before. And so I think it's a very important moment.
Mr. President. What's next, Mr. President?
Say it?
What's coming next for Cuba?
Well, we're going to see. It's a failing nation. You see that. It's falling apart. They have no oil. They have no money. It's a failing nation. So I just can't tell you that. But we're there to help. We're there to help the families, the people. And again, a lot of those people are related to me in the sense that I've had such a great relationship with Cuban Americans. They supported me at a 94% level. That's a pretty good level. And their relatives are there. So we got to, on a humanitarian basis, we're there to help.
Your director was there last week.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that at all?
Well, we have a lot of people there.
Oh, guys, make sure to like the video, guys. Let's get more people on the conversation by smashing that like button. Oh, yeah, and if you haven't noticed, we're going to be doing the horizontal stream from now on. It seems like, the vertical stream has been destroying my channel somewhat. So to recover, we're just going to be doing horizontal lives for a little bit. So, let's enjoy.
We had CIA there. We have Marco is there. Marco's parents, as you know, were from Cuba. So we have a lot of expertise in Cuba. And it's not going to be like the biggest thing we've ever done. But I will tell you, to a lot of people, it's going to be one of the most important. They've been looking for this moment.
Yo, shout out to my man Sid. He said these criminals are taking anything that isn't nailed to the ground. Most corrupt administration in history of this country. You know what? I'm pretty sure there's been more corrupt, but bro, the blatancy though is like the blatant trading. The whole slush fund is a bit sketchy. I mean, yeah, there's a lot, bro. And then when you get into the pardons too, those are even questionable. But yeah, right now there is a lot of sketchy stuff going on. Like, I can't even lie. But let's see how this administration goes, for the rest of the 3 years that he's remaining. I know, Sid, what you're hoping is that I said he's gonna get 25th Amendment, but I'm be real with you, bro. If they didn't do it to Biden, they not about to do it to Trump. And we're just gonna have to sit through it. It is what it is. I mean, you know me, I'm hoping for a change in course, even though the percentage of that is going down and down every day. But hey, all I can really tell you is we just gotta buckle up and see where this lands us. And hopefully it doesn't land us as, making Iran a world power or, a complete economic crisis. Hopefully don't land us there.
For 65 years. So we'll see what happens. But we're going to, in the meantime, we're going to have to help them out. They have no way of living.
Nah, that shit pissed me off too, bro. I ain't gonna lie. What was it? He let this what was it? It was a Jewish fraudster who got out, who was pretty much letting elderly women get abused, and somehow this guy catches a pardon. I was like, ain't no way. The only thing that dude should have been catching his hands, but he got a pardon.
They have no food, they have no electricity, they have no energy at all. But they do have great people. There are a lot of great people. I mean, I have so many Cuban friends in Miami, mostly in Miami and Florida. And they're unbelievable people. They're unbelievable entrepreneurs, and they'd like to go back. I think hopefully they're going to want to live here, but they want to go back. Maybe they'll invest. We'll see what happens. But we're freeing up Cuba.
Mr. President, how much longer do you anticipate the embargo having to be in place on Cuba?
We'll see. We'll be announcing it pretty soon.
On the table here, Mr. President, should we expect any escalation here, or should they expect
with Cuba?
Yes.
Sid, if I could answer that honestly, bro, when I start hearing about that bunker, I start getting a little bit worried. I'm like, bro, are y'all about to just is y'all about to crash the economy and go into that bunker? Or does this have anything to do? I doubt it has anything to do with the announcement of aliens, but that's the more extreme hypothesis of, okay, these guys are going into bunker when the aliens get pissed off. But most likely, it's like, what do y'all need a bunker for? What, when the people turn against you because the economy is that bad and you still want to go to war with Iran? Like, no, you don't need a bunker. Just, you can have the ballroom, but not the bunker. And I'm barely want him to get the ballroom.
No, you won't. There won't be escalation. I don't think there needs to be. Look, the place is falling apart. It's a mess, and they've sort of lost control. They've really lost control of Cuba. I don't want to say that.
Mr. President, Gavin Newsom is on Capitol Hill today. He says that he doesn't think J.D. Vance has what it takes to come after you. What's your response to that?
Who said that?
Gavin Newsom.
He said doesn't have what?
He says that the era of Trump ends with you, and that J.D. Vance doesn't have what it takes to come after you.
I mean,
well, look, we've done a lot, and JD's very talented. He's a smart guy. He'll do very well if it's JD. We have a lot of very talented people. So I think Hopefully, we're going to leave something that's going to be real easy to run. We're doing a lot. We're doing a lot, and JD's a very talented guy.
Does Iran have to respond after you said yesterday you're about an hour away from making a decision? Where does that stand today? Have you heard anything from them?
It's right on the borderline, believe me. If we don't get the right answers, it goes very quickly. We're all ready to go. We have to get the right answers. It would have to be a complete 100% good answers. And if we do, we save a lot of time, energy, and lives, most importantly.
How long will you wait?
Could go very quickly.
I mean, look, bro, we're going on a hope and a prayer that the king of Saudi Arabia and Qatar and Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE. We're hoping that these guys can convince the Iranians to water down their demands to make it more, acceptable to Trump, so they don't get caught up in the crossfires if this war pops off again. And we're hoping that they can get Iran to water it down. When I'm be real with you, not even bombs dropped on their heads got them to water their demands down. So what makes you think a pretty please from your favorite Islamic monarchist is going to do it?
Or a few days. It could be a few days, but it could go very quickly. Iran is a defeated nation. We're dealing with some people, and I must tell you, we're dealing with some very good people. We're dealing with people that are, I think, far more reasonable than the people that are really no longer with us. We're dealing with some people with talent, with good brain power, and we're pretty impressed by it. So hopefully those people will make a deal that's going to be great for everybody.
Are you getting tired of the
But I don't know. Do I get what? I never get tired. But what I like to do, if I can save war by waiting a couple of days, if I can save people being killed by waiting a couple of days, I think it's a great thing to do.
What's your message to him? Like my first year
I'll have a message at a later date. Okay.
Sir, on Iran, did the U.S. offer Iran oil sanctions relief during these talks, as Iranian TV has reported?
No, I haven't heard that. I'm not doing any relief until they sign an agreement. When they sign an agreement, we can get that place built up again and have something that's really a good country for the people. But no, we haven't offered anything.
What's the message to American families who are scared by the rise of AI? They're worried that their kids are not going to be able to have jobs someday because AI will
I'll tell you, AI has been amazing because right now we have more jobs, more people working right now in the United States by far than we ever had before. And outside of the war, and I assumed the economy was going to go down, the stock market would go down 20, 25%. It's actually up. The stock market is higher now than it was before I started.
And I promise you, that line pisses people off so much. Like every time he says that, it pisses me off because it's just like, dog, just because the stock market is doing good, just because millionaires and billionaires are turning over a profit, that really doesn't mean, or that really doesn't help the affordability problem that Americans face every day. And here the thing is, it got exacerbated through the rising gas prices. And of course, there's going to be rising energy prices, food prices, and of course, inflation ticked up to 3.8%. Yeah, but don't worry, guys. The Dow is 50,000, right? You know, as your price, as you're paying like 500 at the gas pump. Well, hopefully nobody's doing that unless you're driving an 18-wheeler, but you know what I'm talking about.
The Iran situation. And on the Iran, I had no choice because they were going to have a nuclear weapon. We're not going to give them a nuclear weapon. But that's going to end soon, one way or the other. Oil is going to come tumbling down. There's so much oil. We have 1,600 ships in the Strait that are loaded up with oil that are going to be coming out very soon. So we'll have to see. But the military has been unbelievable. The blockade has been infallible. Not one ship has gotten through the blockade. 37 have tried. They all wish they didn't.
Can you tell us about your call with Erdogan?
Yeah, I had a very good call with President Erdogan, and pretty standard. We have a very good relationship. Isn't it nice to have relationships with some very tough people? He's a tough guy, and but I have a relationship.
Bro, like, no, I already know. Trust me, I already know. And guess what, bro? That's about to probably be the last financial information you ever get out of Trump. So, because what was it? He got the IRS to seal his tax records. Which, I mean, of course, you don't want nobody, you know, going to like dropping your tax returns. But it's kind of like he's saying that the IRS, not the CIA, but the IRS cannot pretty much investigate this man at all, cannot look into his tax return whatsoever. And I'm just like, bro, you know how much financial crimes this man could low-key get away with at this point?
With him that nobody else does.
He really would.
He's actually done a good job. He's been, you know, I think very much of an ally. Some people would doubt that, but I think he's been a great ally, and his people respect him. His people respect him a lot.
Mr. President, in response to people that are critical of your settlement over your IRS case about the tax now that you can't be prosecuted for tax?
Yeah, well, what happened is I was suing IRS for a lot of different reasons. One of the reasons is they released.
Oh, no, correction. No, correction. Shout out to Sid, though. It was his kids, his children, and his businesses can never receive a complete audit or be investigated by the IRS. I was like, oh, my goodness. Yo. I'm like, did he just give himself, like, I don't know, like a roundabout, a pardon? Like, basically financial immunity. Shout out. Shout out to corruption, guys. You got to love it. Because I'm not even going to lie. I was a little bit impressed. I was like, how do he pull this off? Like, what?
My tax returns, which they're not allowed to do. Now, they showed I pay a lot of tax. I may even release my current returns because they show I pay a lot of money. But they're not supposed to do that. They were in lockboxes as president. And they released them, and a certain firm released them, which was, I guess, a private firm, but it released them to a lot of the fake news, and the fake news went, and you're just not allowed to do that, and many other things.
Oh, bro, look, we understand your tax returns got leaked, and like, yeah, that's wrong, but what does that have to do with you getting immunity from the IRS? From ever being investigated? Like, what does that have to do with it? I'm sorry, but that makes no sense. You, but going through, I guess, an identity fraud crisis is not really, I'm be real, it's not really a good way to sell. Oh yeah, but because somebody dropped my tax returns, I now get immunity from the IRS. I'm like, bro, what? Like, all right, okay. I wonder if this is actually going to be upheld, because this is crazy.
Happened. So I released them from the lawsuit, and I guess they made a settlement of some kind. I wasn't involved in the settlement. I could have been involved, but I didn't choose to be. So they made a settlement. Also, the anti-weaponization of people. I mean, people were destroyed. They went to jail. Their families were ruined. They committed suicide. You know, all the...
Oh, guys, don't worry. We're going to get into this huge debate about this whole slush fund. And here's a problem. Everybody was going like, all right, yeah, well, what gravity of offenses it got to be? Who's eligible and all this good stuff? Can you get in on it? Can your children get in on it? Yeah, that's what a lot of people are concerned about.
Biden administration and the Obama administration, both of them. I mean, the Obama administration started it. The Biden administration was horrible in terms of what they've done to people is incredible. And we're reimbursing those people for their legal fees and for their costs, and for anybody involved, but they destroyed people. People committing, I read the other day, a person committed suicide over it. They went, you know, it was the most violent thing.
Here's the thing. If you talk about like January 6ers and all that good stuff, there were some people like that were really done wrong. But I'll even admit that a lot of them did low-key deserve those charges. But there were some that definitely, well, the prosecution did them dirty. And they do deserve to be compensated, and some did sadly take their lives due to the pressure. But hey, we're just wondering, for those like cases, I'm okay with it. I can accept that. But if you're telling me that you're about to get in on this, I mean, like, come on, bro. And I don't know, what about those that you pardon? What, the guys who actually got convicted of fraud, or like that Jewish guy who's letting old ladies like rot in their bed? Can he get in on that as well? Because I'm not going to like that.
I've ever seen in politics what they did. And yet if I say, oh, let's look at this one or that one, they say weaponization. What they did in terms of weaponization will never be allowed to happen in this country again.
Oh, guys, make sure to smash that like button, guys. Let's get more people in on the conversation by smashing that like button. Appreciate the support, guys. Let's keep it going. We got like, what, 11 of y'all in here, man. Let's try to get to at least 7 likes. Come on now. But all right.
So we think that those people, we think that anybody involved in that process should partake. And you're talking about peanuts compared to the value. It destroyed the lives of many, many people. Thank you very much, everybody.
All right. Well, since you left off on the whole IRS thing, let's get into that. Let's get into that right now. Because I said I thought I was going to get into Iran a little bit, but let's start differently. We're going to get into Iran at the end.
Turns out there was more to that settlement between President Trump and the IRS. The Justice Department is now forever barred from auditing Trump. The addendum, which was quietly added Tuesday, says that the government cannot examine tax returns of the president, his family, his company, or related companies. It applies to anything filed before the agreement was reached, which was on Monday.
Democrats and Republicans are skeptical.
I'm sorry, but it's kind of funny, though, because even like I said, even I laugh when I just read it out loud. Like, are you serious? Like, bro, what? How in God's name do you get that off? Like, what in the corruption? But yeah, the IRS cannot audit President Trump, his family, his company, relative companies. Oh, all right, come on now. That's going too far. It's like that. You can't even go after companies that's connected to my company. You can't even go after parent companies, even the shady LLCs that I'll set up to do shady work. It's like, oh, wow. All right. I got to give it to him. He's cashing in. He's cashing in.
Anything filed before the agreement was reached, which was on Monday.
Democrats and Republicans are skeptical about a lot of this, worried that the funds could even go to pay violent January 6th rioters. Here's what Democratic Congresswoman Debbie Dingell just told John last hour.
How do I feel about that? I think this is one of the most outrageous, unethical things I have yet to see this administration do. And all indications are that they clearly are targeting. Some of the January 6 people that have been convicted are talking about taking this money and using it to compensate people that were then victims of other crimes that they did. And this deal that he's cutting for immunity is absolutely outrageous. Absolutely outrageous. We've never seen anything like this in the history of the United States.
CNN's Elena Train.
It's almost like he knows bro. It's like, I'm sorry, but do you know how shady this looks? It's pretty much like what Biden did with the blanket pardons for, the January 6th committee and his son. It's like, well, bro, what you hiding? You just gave yourself pretty much immunity from IRS investigation into your companies and yourself and your children. What you hiding? Nobody was even thinking about that. Now, we were probably later, but not now.
Tracking this one. She's joining us now with much more on this. What are you hearing from the White House about this one?
Yeah, look, there's obviously a lot of scrutiny, Kate, that is being paid to this new settlement that they have worked on. And I do want to focus on what you just brought up about this new addendum that we saw posted to the Justice Department website yesterday, essentially saying that in this settlement, the IRS cannot go after the president, his family members, or their businesses, again, for past potentially, it's backwards looking for past violations or anything like that, at least for now. I'd remind you, though, that, of course, the president can always file some sort of blanket pardon when he leaves office to protect him from any future consequences. Now, I do want to say we knew from our reporting last week, Kate.
Shoot, why waste a pardon? He already gave it to himself. Like President Trump, his family and businesses protected from IRS claims on past tax issues. On the past? Yeah, bro. Like, that's basically the same thing Biden did. But all right, federal government forever barred, forever barred. Like, bro, there's no time limit on it. Forever barred at the perpetuity. What? Does his grandkids and his descendants get the pardon too? All right. This is crazy. This is crazy as hell. But all right, let's keep it going.
That this was something that the president's attorneys at the Justice Department, the lawyers at the IRS and others were looking at, including lawyers here at the White House. And they were discussing this potential move to protect the president and members of his family. So we knew that this was something that they were considering. But of course, this raises even more questions because, you know, there's a lot of people in the Trump administration and specifically Trump administration's lawyers that are overseeing this personally. A lot of these people were the president's personal former attorneys. That includes Deputy Attorney General Todd Blanche, had previously worked to represent the president. Now, people are asking.
Oh, no, Sid, trust me. I share your frustration, but I've just been looking at so much lately. I just had to learn to laugh at a certain point. I'm just like, you know what? I could be pissed. I could be yelling at the mic right now, talking about this crazy bastard, wah. But I'm just like, you know what? It's almost funny. It's like, it's so much that it's just funny. It's like, yo, it's right in our face. So you pretty much bought an election for $38 million. Like, you allowed Muriel Nadelson and AIPAC to do that right in front of our faces. So, I mean, shout out to what was it, going against the donors? Well, you had them pretty much embrace the donors at this point. Complete IRS immunity for audits and all that good stuff. I'm just like, oh yeah, and he's been making a pretty good amount of money on his side deals in businesses and all that good and all that crazy stuff, which is, you know, that I can't really be that mad about. But while the American people's low-key going through it, the fact that we can all see you cashing in is a bit wild. It's a bit wild.
You know,
that's not even TDS.
$10 billion lawsuit against your own government and have your own personal attorneys look at this.
Let's talk about this. Joining us right now is Democratic Congressman Jake Auchincloss of Massachusetts. It's good to see you. Thanks for being here. Let's talk on this DOJ fund. You heard what Congresswoman Debbie Dingell thinks about it. What is your reaction to it overall? And now this addendum, I guess, if you will, that we're hearing about, which is that it's barring the IRS forever from bringing claims against the president for past tax issues.
That's what happens when you make your personal attorney the Attorney General of the United States. Corruption's the name of the game for the Trump administration. His crypto coin raised millions from Chinese billionaires. His son-in-law's private equity firm is raising millions from Middle Eastern billionaires. And now the president is seeking to raise millions directly from the United States taxpayer. And that matters to Americans, one, because the blatant corruption undermines respect for the rule of law. It makes criminals like those January 6 rioters think they can get away with it and continue to do harm, as they are currently out in American cities and streets. And two, because the money matters. I mean, the Environmental Protection Administration just cut a couple $2 billion from clean water funds meant to take PFAS, forever chemicals, out of municipal water utilities. That $1.8 billion, that could be funding clean water for schools and for cities. But right now it's funding Donald Trump's vengeance campaign.
My panel is back with me. So that is the problem, though. There's no limitations. There's no exclusions, as we know, et cetera. There is the concern about who might be eligible.
It was the forever part that just threw me. Next thing you're going to say, yes, and it's allowed to continue down his bloodline. Yes, he has bloodline immunity. Oh, wow. And then next you can say, oh, well, you got to understand he's the chosen president. I'm like, okay. Now y'all really pushing it, but I guarantee you we're gonna, hopefully we don't hear that, but I ain't gonna lie. I be on X and I be hearing some people say the most glazing comments you'll ever see on Trump. Most glazing comments. So I done seen it all, guys. But you know what? Do I want to still keep up with this one? Because I ain't gonna lie. This is insane. I think we know enough by now.
And therefore could actually collect tax-funded money through a slush fund. This seems to me such a political misstep, given that it would not only include people who are January 6 rioters, but also include people who are like Letitia James or James Comey, who would say, I've been wrong. Do I get paid? Why do this?
Maybe Hunter Biden, too.
I mean, you know what? If both parties can use it, then we can't really be upset at it. If it's something that both parties can use and it's not just talking about, oh, well, we're only doing this for all the conservatives that were wronged by the government, well, then sorry. I mean, then, yeah, that'd be pretty unfair. But since both sides can use it, I can't be that upset.
Look, I don't know. First of all, I think you got to have some preclusions here. You cannot allow people who attack law enforcement to access these funds. I think most Republicans would probably agree.
But he didn't say that.
I know
Why
the
not?
Attorney General didn't say that. I think his response was he's going to nominate 5 people, and then they will determine the rules and structures by which people can can
This
request
is like
these funds.
completely invented.
But that said, though,
completely invented. This
oh,
is.
oh, Lula, I wasn't
All
done.
right,
Hold on
all
a minute.
right.
But that said, though, and I'll be quick here so my friend
No,
Lula
no,
can
no,
jump in just really quickly. From a conservative perspective, this sounds a lot like a reparation. And traditionally, conservatives aren't in support of utilizing taxpayer dollars to just give to people. Now, there is a grievance process by which they could sue the federal government if they wanted to for a redress of said grievances. But to utilize taxpayer dollars for, again, effectively a reparation, I'm just not in support of that at all.
Then why you
Or
say?
I don't know, you can kind of say damn near like, oh, like a class action lawsuit because he set a fund aside. AKA, I mean, you only so much people can get some money. It's not like an unlimited fund that we're just supporting. So it's almost like a class action lawsuit at this point.
It's wholly
Go ahead,
invented,
Lulu.
obviously.
Okay. No, but like, I know we all have the memory of goldfish in this moment, but let us recall that this was a secret, because basically it was exposed by my paper, the New York Times.
But all right, though, let's go ahead and get into the next story right here with a little bit of more of this whole, what was it? Who I think they're going to go into a little bit further detail on who is this 1.7, I'm going to say $1.8 billion fund really for.
Going to. This is
Because
so
these guys-
bad. It is so bad. It's so bad prima facie. It's just bad on its face. But then we the taxpayer who are paying for this are not going to know who this is going to. This is so bad. It is so bad. It's so bad prima facie. It's just bad on its face. But then when you put it in context, in the fact that Americans can't afford gas, Americans can't afford groceries, farmers are going bankrupt all over this country. We are in the middle of a war that's now cost $50 billion. He wants $1.5 billion for a ballroom. He wants hundreds of millions of dollars for an arch. He wants $15 million to paint the reflecting pool. And then you put on top of that now a $1.7 billion slush fund to pay his support.
Man, and not one program, not one fund set aside to help with childcare, grocery costs. I mean, they're slow rolling. They're talking about cutting the gas tax, but that really ain't going to help too much if this war continues. Like, the crazy thing is, because of the debt actually going about 40 trillion, that we might have to raise taxes. So, like, let's be real here. Like, nothing is really going well for Americans when it comes to affordability. And all we're seeing is Trump taking all these escapades of, well, I guess luxury designing the White House. And I'm gonna be real with you, we didn't vote for him to do that. We voted for him to help out with the economy, help out with affordability, and of course, no new wars, so we can actually prosper as a nation for once. But we can't even get that from this man. Instead, we're getting, kind of sounds like he's living out his real estate dream of designing the White House, seeing what he used to do.
Supporters and the people who feel victimized. I mean, I'm so old. I remember when most Republicans used to balk and be shocked and outraged by the idea of reparations to people who suffered slavery. But we're going to be giving money to January 6th insurrectionists. That part's okay. Yeah, it's disgusting.
Scott, is this reparations?
I wouldn't say reparations. I think they're grossly misframing it. If anything, we could say class action lawsuit, but reparations is crazy now. Come on now.
Look, I think there's a lot about it we don't know. I don't know who's on the committee. I don't know exactly who's going to be applying for it.
The people that Trump approves.
Well, they say anybody can apply for it, and I don't think.
Okay, I'll apply for it. You think I'll get it?
Have you ever been unfairly targeted by the Department of Justice?
I have been unfairly targeted by this administration. Yeah.
Have you been unfairly prosecuted by the Department of Justice?
Are those the people that are going to be in this?
So the answer is no, you haven't. So the question is, has anyone in the history of the United States ever been unfairly targeted by the Department of Justice? Of course they have, and there ought to be, just at a top line, a way for people to seek recourse if they have been unfairly targeted. That having been said, this all started by the fact that Donald Trump had his tax returns unfairly and illegally leaked by the IRS. That's where all this started, and he was initially seeking damages for that, which he has given up. He'll receive no money, as I understand it, and now it has morphed into this idea that there have been people that have been unfairly targeted. All of this makes me a little uncomfortable because it's a lot of money and it didn't go through the U.S. Congress. Yeah. That's number one. Number two, I don't want to see a president necessarily handpicking people to get payments where he could be accused of just picking people out who are political allies. But do I want a world where if you've been unfairly targeted by the federal government and it was truly unfair and you truly had something done to you that should not have been done, do I think people should be able to seek recourse for that? Absolutely, I do, because I think it probably happens, and not on a partisan basis, but it probably happens all the time. And I think people ought to be able to seek some sort of damages if they've been unfairly targeted by the department or by the federal
like
government.
James Comey or just
right.
James?
I mean, I guess the question is, you've got this. The overarching thing that has people really riled is the January 6th rioters, some of whom pled guilty. I was in one of the trials for the Proud Boys and for the Oath Keepers, and I watched the whole thing, and I watched it play out, and it played out as any trial would play out. And here they're pardoned, and they could seek money should they be able to.
My personal view is anybody who committed documented violence against the government or against police officers, they've not been unfairly treated. If they ended up being convicted of a crime because of violence they committed, I got no real sympathy for them. Now, if there were people who were on the periphery that were swept up, over prosecuted, whatever, and they have but
here's the thing, though, like, he didn't have to do this. That's what makes it look corrupt. I mean, if you want to sue the government, sue the government. Like, you could do that. Anybody could do that right now. If they feel like they've been wronged by the government, you could sue them. But creating a whole fund and avenue for it is just like, all right, well, what was all this for? This doesn't make sense. Like I said, you set up a class action lawsuit fund for what? To pay MAGA allies, including rioters, the way they're framing it. But then also, like I said, people like Letitia James and James Comey could possibly claim it as well, depending on their case. Or depending if they're being, picky about it, if they're picking and choosing, because you never know. It could just be for conservatives or just MAGA or those who they feel like were wrongfully persecuted that are just conservatives. But all right, guys, let's go ahead and get into this Piers Morgan debate. I think this was a pretty good one. I mean, it's always good when they got that guy Wilt Chamberlain on there, kind of making himself look stupid. It's always a good time when that guy's on. So let's go ahead and get right into it, guys. And let's make sure to like the video as well. We only got 7 likes, so let's see if we can get to 10 likes. So smash that like button, guys, and appreciate the support. All right, let's jump right into it. I'm so upset that Massey lost, but it is what it is.
I would have come out sooner, but I had to call my opponent and concede, and it took a while to find Ed Galrine in Tel Aviv.
3? I ain't gonna lie, bro. Look, Scott Jennings' job got way harder when this war went down. Chamberlain made it? No, it's Chamberlain, I think. But look, Scott Jennings' job got 20 times harder when this war popped off. After that, when he started trying to, do all the mental gymnastics in the world to make this war look like a success, yeah, his job got a whole lot harder, and he started earning that $1 million salary, multi-million-dollar salary.
Pro-Israeli billionaires poured record-breaking amounts of money into this tiny little district. If you don't think that $25 million is enough to sway 5,000 voters, you're just not living in political reality.
I'm sure Will Chambers is about to do exactly that. We are so used to lying and obfuscation and weasel words, as we often see from Will Chambers here.
Oh, get over yourself, Buckley.
I don't think Massey would have won if Israel had not spent $1.
When a mosque is attacked in the US, Republican politicians are silent. You can't find Democrats who do the same when there's a synagogue attack or anything equivalent.
Thomas Massey's bruising defeat last night was, according to most mainstream commentary, proof that President Trump remains in total control. He may be battered and bruised by the broken promises and the war in Iran, but he's still the kingpin and the kingmaker. Trump's takedown of Massey crystallizes his grip on the GOP.
Yeah, and that Indiana sweep. But here's the thing, though. The Indiana sweep look way more official. Why? Because they didn't overspend on it. Massey, he probably had maybe like $500,000 to $1 million of campaign funding. They gave his opponent $38 million to sit there and put AI slop in front of boomers. Like, are you serious?
Said USA Today. Thomas Massey's defeat tightens Trump's grips in the New Republic. And so, word for word, did the BBC. The New York Times, mixing things up a bit, said Trump tightens his grasp on the GOP. The question they ought to be asking is, who is gripping or grasping President Trump? Pro-Israel donors and lobbyists spent at least $15 million on the campaign against Thomas Massie. It's the most expensive primary in U.S. history. Millions of dollars came from AIPAC, the American Israel Public Affairs Committee. You might therefore assume that Massie was a raving anti-Semite who used his platform to trash Israel at every opportunity. But he didn't. In fact, until recently, he barely spoke about Israel at all. And that apparently was his main offense.
There's a foreign interest group called AIPAC that's, got the ear of this current speaker and demanded 16 votes in April on Israel or the Middle East. We haven't had 16 votes in April on the United States in Congress. Ostensibly, it's a group of Americans who lobby on behalf of Israel. They're for anything Israel. And they're a very effective lobbying group. They get in there. They try to get me to write a white paper as a candidate, for instance, for Congress. They almost get
on what?
On Israel. And I wouldn't do it. And they said, why? And I'm like, I don't do homework for lobbyists, right? I'm like, I didn't like writing term papers at college. I'm not writing one for you.
Well, the campaign against Thomas Massie painted a grim picture of a scheming figure of dubious morals who went out of his way to make life difficult for Trump. In fact, he voted with the Republican Party more than 90% of the time. Massie is staunchly against expensive military interventions and foreign aid, especially the Iran war.
It was the complete propaganda against Massie that absolutely pissed me off. They're pretty much saying that, oh, he was voting against Trump in the big, beautiful bill. No, he voted no because you guys wanted to push no AI regulations for 10 years straight. And then he also said that, I ain't gonna lie, you guys could go harder. You guys could be better with the cuts. I don't think it's MAGA enough. And you know what? Even back then, I think you guys can even go back to my criticism of Massie. I was like, look, they're already crying about the cuts we're making. Massie, you're trying to give these guys a heart attack. I like where your heart's at. I like where your head's at. But you're gonna give the Dems a heart attack. So if anything, Massie was more MAGA than everybody else. He was more MAGA than Trump on the big, beautiful bill. He was actually trying to get what Americans voted for. And he settled on us a couple things, but hey, at the end of the day, he did vote yes on it, and he made sure he got that BS pork that was in it. But all right.
He's a leading critic of wasteful government spending and unmanageable debt. He's campaigned relentlessly for the total release of the Epstein files and for the prosecution of men whose crimes they exposed. In other words, his platform is a lot like the one that got Trump elected. So how did he become MAGA enemy number one? Well, it probably has something to do with statements like this.
People who are funding the ballroom, the people who are funding the arch, the people who are funding the rebranding of the Kennedy Center, these are the people who are also funding my opponent. These are the people who have the ear of the president. These are the people who are dominating our foreign policy decisions. They're the billionaires. And these are also the same people who are in the Epstein files.
Damn.
So a Massie gone, at least for now. It's very reasonable to ask what it all means for the future of a MAGA government in some turmoil. Has Trump tightened his grip on MAGA, or has the donor...
I'm gonna be real with you. It just made it seem like Trump just sold out to donors. That's really what it seems like. He sold out to donors. He just let a whole bunch of donors pull up and pretty much buy out that seat. I'm gonna be real with you. I honestly think that nobody knew who this guy was. The man didn't pull up for no debates, and even during his victory party, bro had barely anybody there. But Massie got a whole screaming crowd at his defeat party. So something seems really off. I'm not gonna say that it's rigged, but something just seems really off. And not just the fact that they put $38 million into it. That's not the only thing that's off here.
Tightened its grip on Trump. Joining me to debate all this is Will Chamberlain, Senior Counsel of the Article 3 Project, Glenn Greenwald, the host of System Update, Clay Travis, founder of Outkick, and Buckley Carlson, the former Republican strategist and speechwriter. Well, welcome to all of you. Any Arsenal fans amongst you before we get anywhere?
Sure, I'll be an Arsenal fan today.
Thank you, Will Chamberlain. In that case, you're going to get an easier ride than normal. For American viewers who are a little mystified by what an Arsenal is, if it doesn't involve the US military, I can tell you it's my football team. I'm not going to use the word soccer in one of my own shows. And we've just won the Premier League for the first time in 22 years, which has made me the happiest human being on God's earth. And on that positive note, I now expect you very quickly to be tearing each other from limb to limb. Glenn Greenwald, It's an interesting scenario, this, involving Thomas Massie and indeed other people who appear to have been crunched in this primary race by Trump's political fist. And yet at the same time, you see a lot of the conservative right at war with each other. So what are you reading into the sort of overall picture here about what's going on?
Oh, I've been interviewing Thomas Massie for years prior to October 7th, when he was really not talking much about
I don't know. This would kill me too. Like, look, when Trump started out going against donors, saying, I don't need these donors, I got my own money and all this good stuff. Well, of course, he quickly gave in to the donors. But let's be real. He went in on the image of, look, we got to turn against these donors. Like, these donors be pretty much like buying out these politicians so they go against the American people. Then what does this man do? Send the donors after Thomas Massie, who the American people actually like. Like, that is a wild. I ain't gonna lie, that's crazy work right there. To sit there in front of the American people and sit there and talk about, oh, these donors and how they're corrupt and all this and they corrupt politics, then go send those same donors after Thomas Massie. That is crazy work.
Israel at all, applying though the same exact principles applying to other issues as he's now applying to Israel, including being one of the leading opponents, for example, of the Biden administration's policy of financing the war in Ukraine on exactly the same grounds. He opposes U.S. financing of the Israeli military and the Israeli wars, which is people in Israel are doing extremely well. Ukraine is not our government's obligations. American citizens are. Our towns are falling apart. People don't go to college. They can't afford healthcare for their kids, the most basic things that a decent country provides for their citizens. And yet we're spending billions of dollars on countries like Israel, where millions of people have higher standards of living in that country than they do here.
I'm telling you, man, if things get any worse, people are going to have to start living like Indian and Muslim families. It's gonna be like 7 to 8 people per house, bro. You, your mom, your brothers, sisters, and a couple cousins. And that's gonna be the only way anybody can afford to live anywhere if it gets any worse.
In the United States, he's been the leading cause or advocate of privacy rights and opposed to domestic spying. So he's always been somebody who's been a leading advocate of many of the principles, including, by the way, free speech that the MAGA movement claimed before Trump got back into power again, that were most important to them. He aligned perfectly with it. The difference, though, is that he became an outspoken opponent of the U.S. relationship with Israel after October 7th, when the U.S. started spending not just $4 billion a year on Israel, but 20 and 25 billion, and however you count, far more than that, in the wake of all the wars that Israel was involved with. And because of that, obviously, Trump was a major factor. But the real difference in this race was that 3 pro-Israeli billionaires, led by Miriam Adelson, who Trump himself said is more loyal to Israel than she is to the United States, spent most of her life as an Israeli, was in the IDF, poured insane amounts of money, record-breaking amounts of money into this tiny little district where all you need is 50,000 votes to win. And if you don't...
Yeah, Miriam Adelson is like a gambling mogul. I mean, she got gambling operations, I believe, overseas and in America. I'm pretty sure for overseas, but I think a couple of her operations got shut down in America. But you never know. She's still ultra wealthy, ultra Zionist. So, and ultra, well, I'm not going to say the last part, but you guys get my point though. She's a big time donor and she's a top, and she's an ultra Zionist, AKA she's all for Israel and not really for the US. And everything she puts money into, this is why her putting money into that election was a red flag for everybody, because she only puts money into anything that's within the interest of Israel. So if she put money into Trump, it was because Trump was within the interest of Israel. If she puts money against Thomas Massie opponent, it's because he aligns within the interest of Israel. And we're talking about a guy that's pro-draft, pro-war, pro-bullshit. Like, I'm gonna be real with you. It's kind of like the people in Kentucky that voted for the other guy. You kind of sold your country out just a little bit, I could put too much on you, but hey, you could have held strong just a little bit. Like, I'm sorry, but I think that as MAGA, you guys should not trust donors the way you guys did with Thomas Massie. I thought that was absolutely ridiculous. I'm like, bro, you're telling me y'all putting $38 million behind a guy we done elected like 4 times, and nobody seen that as funny. Y'all just went to this guy anyway because they had a good enough AI slot for you, and they had some pretty good AI slot. They had Thomas Massie walking into the room with like AOC and Rashida Tlaib or something like that. And I'm pretty sure they said some pretty convincing things, but you voted for the man 4 times. He stood for your values, and then you sell him out for $38 million. But then again, most of these voters probably don't even know the funding that was going into this guy. And I'm sorry, but how can you trust a candidate who didn't pull up to the debate? So y'all voted for a guy where you did not hear his ideals, you didn't hear him defend his positions or anything like that. Y'all just voted for him because F Massey? I mean, I guess that's what $38 million do.
Think that $25 million is enough to sway 5,000 voters, which was the difference in the race, to one from one side to the other. You're just not living in political reality. We saw AIPAC do that last year in 2024. They broke their own record. This year, they did it to Cori Bush and Jamal Bowman, put $15 million in both of those primary races. That is a massive story that people who Trump himself says have either primary loyalty or at least equal loyalty to a foreign country are overriding what polling shows are people's opposition to Israel, to the war in Iran, and just drowning our politics in enormous amounts of unlimited money in service of this foreign country. And not saying Trump wasn't a major role. Obviously he was. He has a huge grip on especially Republican primary voters. But if you deny that that was at least as big of a factor, then you're just insulting the intelligence of anybody listening.
Well, Will Chamberlain.
I'm sure Will's about to do that.
Sorry, Buckley, what was that?
I was going to say, I'm sure Will Chambers is about to do exactly that.
I'm about to ask him to do exactly that.
Travis.
Yeah, I was going to preface it.
Are.
Well, I was going to preface it by saying that just before we came on air with this show, Donald Trump
I swear, bro, this guy Will Chamberlain is the only one of the few guys I know that can say incredibly dumb stuff intelligently.
Has gone public about a growing sense that people are getting that it's Israel trying to call the shots in Iran, that they forced him into the war in the first place, that they don't want it to end. They think that America should re-engage in the military strikes and so on. And Donald Trump's reacting pretty forcefully. Let's take a listen.
What have you said to Prime Minister Netanyahu about Iran and how long to hold off on strikes?
He's fine. He'll do whatever I want him to do. He's very, very good man. He'll do whatever I want him to do, and he's a great guy. To me, he's a great guy. Don't forget, he was a wartime prime minister, and he's not treated right in Israel, in my opinion. I'm right.
Because even his people recognize that he's basically committed a genocide and also that he's putting Israel in danger multiple times, not just with his funding of Hamas, but through his constant attacking of, well, southern Lebanon, which pretty much brings the wrath of Hezbollah upon them. And then, of course, with the 12-day war with Iran, where it was raining down missiles on them. So it's fair to say that I don't think the Israeli people are, completely done with him, but I'm pretty sure they're pissed off at him. Because, I mean, let's keep it real. But then again, we're going to get into some Israeli media because you know what? I just remember that interview that I was watching, like, what was it? The Israeli media was interviewing Tucker Carlson. And now that I think about it, I think most of them are that brainwashed to what's going on. Like, they truly don't see how their government has created all of their problems. Just like how we don't see our government has created all of our problems. So I guess we can relate to them on that note.
Now, at 99% in Israel, I could run for prime minister. So maybe after I do this, I'll go to Israel, run for prime minister. I had a poll this morning. I'm 99%. So that's good. But no, he's a wartime prime minister, and I just don't think they treat him well.
Mr. President, what do you do?
I think they have a president over there that treats him very poorly.
So a lot to unpack there, Will, not least the idea of Prime Minister Donald Trump of Israel. Well, we'll watch that development with interest. But this central point around Thomas Massie, which I find really fascinating, is that pretty much everything he stands for, and we'll park the Israel part of this to one side for a moment, but pretty much everything else, as Glenn articulated, would be the kind of stuff that Trump campaigned on when he got re-elected. I mean, it was, I'm not going to meddle in foreign wars, particularly in the Middle East. I'm going to take care of cost of living, America first, et cetera, et cetera. And people have looked at this and gone, well, you've done the complete opposite. And here's Thomas Massie, who's actually continued to stand by the positions that Trump was espousing as a candidate, leaving a lot of people a little bit mystified here about why Massie becomes the bogeyman if it doesn't involve his criticism of Israel. Because, again, what Glenn said is correct. You can not be a conspiracy theorist to recount factually that there were millions and millions of dollars pumped in by Israeli-friendly billionaires against Massie. And the only reason that could be, it seems to me, it's because of his increasingly critical rhetoric about the Israeli government. What do you say?
Well, I think that's just simply mistaken. Remember, Thomas Massie wasn't broke here. He had over $10 million of his own to spend, sourced from libertarians nationwide. So if he wanted to get his message out there, he easily did so. And the problem was that his message was schizophrenic. And it's not Israel, it's the big, beautiful bill. Remember, I mean, you POTUS this.
See, in that cap. Remember, he never said, bro, Massie never voted for the big, beautiful bill. He didn't vote no for the big, beautiful bill in its entirety. It was because of the AI BS and because he felt like we could get better cuts on the programs that we were supposed to cut through Doge. Like I said, if you look back at Thomas Massie's argument for voting no on the big, beautiful bill, it was because he felt like, well, there wasn't enough cuts, and this whole no AI regulation for 10 years is ridiculous. And I mean, the way they're pushing data centers now, I ain't gonna lie, I'm kind of happy. I'm low-key appreciative that he got that out the way.
Statistic where you said 90% of the time he supported the Republican Party. That's a little bit misleading because the big, beautiful bill was the one bill last year that essentially contained the entirety of the president's agenda. And by voting against that, he voted against basically everything President Trump ran on. Massive increases in border security funding for the wall, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, massive decreases in some discretionary spending. So it was the key part of his agenda, and he was the only Republican to vote against it. And so then you look at what was the message? You say pro-Israel donors spent, but what did they say to voters in Northern Kentucky? They replayed President Trump's rally where he endorsed Ed Galbraith, called Thomas Massie the worst congressperson in the history of the country, disloyal to him, disloyal to the party. And I don't think the voters of Northern Kentucky are stupid. They voted.
I mean, bro, if it was disloyal of this man to make sure that AI had to make sure that AI just didn't run rampant for 10 years, I'm sorry, but like, how could y'all frame this guy as one, against Trump, and two, not make America, like, not MAGA? Because honestly, really, he's America first, and I think he's honestly more America first than, well, our entire Congress. And honestly, I think we just lost the best guy. Because what was it? He has like a Liberty score of 99. Like, I'm sorry, but you can't really beat that, bro. Even Democrats like him. Of course, they disagree with the man, but they still respect that he has some type of integrity, and he don't sit there and just be partisan all the time. I'm sorry, but to sit there and say that, oh well, because he voted voted no on the beautiful bill because of this one thing in it, we're just gonna say that, oh no, he voted for no on because of its entirety. He just wanted to go against Trump's plan, even though he voted yes in the end. Like, that makes any sense?
The president by almost 2-1. They know what they wanted. They wanted a loyal representative, and they weren't getting that in Thomas Massie, and that's why he's not going to be in Congress starting in January.
Have they got the president they thought they were voting for in 2024?
Absolutely. They certainly think so. I mean, Thomas Massie had the opportunity to make the arguments about how, Trump was betraying his base. He wasn't making those arguments at all. Towards the end, he was making arguments about how me and Donald Trump.
Bro, his candidate wasn't making any arguments. I mean, at least bro was talking. His candidate didn't even sit down for a debate. Nobody knew who this man was. He just came in on a gust of wind talking about, I'm a veteran.
Have a lot
with a Trump endorsement
of work to do still together, which is ironic because a few months earlier, he was talking about how the Trump administration was the Epstein administration. That's the schizophrenia I'm talking about. He couldn't decide whether he needed to be pro-Trump to appeal to the voters in that district who liked Donald Trump, or against him because of these supposed betrayals. In reality, it was Thomas Massie hallucinating the president's platform into what he wanted to be, rather than looking at what it actually was.
Okay, Buckley Carlson.
Piers, can I just quickly ask Will just a very quick question?
Sure.
Did the record-breaking amount of millions of dollars poured into this district in Kentucky by Miriam Adelson and two other Israel-centric billionaires, was that a significant factor in your view in Thomas Massie's defeat after 12 years in Congress?
Of course it was a significant factor, but that money probably would have been there regardless because President Trump had made Thomas Massie his target number one.
On a primary? I'm sorry, but the average spent on a primary is like, what, like $500,000? You guys put 38 million. I mean, all right, cool. Maybe if you put in a couple million, okay, but 38 million? You guys were trying to overwhelm that election, and you did. Because, bro, with 38 million, all the ads that you can put out, all the AI slop, all the media push, all the bullshit, I mean, here's the thing. They spent most of that 38 million just attacking Massey and not really spouting the ideals of that candidate at all. It was just a full-on Massey attack for 38 million.
So he would have found donors to spend that money in any event. It's just that the pro-Israel donors were particularly happy to spend that money in this case, obviously, because they don't like Thomas Massey very much.
I wonder why.
Okay, let me bring in Buckley on this. What do you make of what do you make of it, Buckley? In particular, do you think this is because of Israel, or do you think it's actually because he took on Trump, as Will just said, over the big beautiful bill, and that was pretty much all of Trump's agenda? And therefore, if you're going to do that, Trump would see that as a massively antagonistic, negative attack on what he wants to do. And so he...
Oh, guys, make sure to smash that like button. And I guess there are a couple of you guys who are new to the channel, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. Appreciate the support, guys. We try to do this every day.
He decided to take him down.
I think Glenn made the case pretty convincingly with the data that he just presented here. I would just say I have a little bit different perspective in that we are so used to lying and obfuscation and weasel words, as we often see from Will Chambers here. But Donald Trump has clearly articulated exactly the way forward for the new MAGA coalition. He's straightforward and clear, as he was in that tape. He didn't show the whole clip, I don't believe, but he's talking now. He's acknowledged his donors are rich Israeli billionaires. He's acknowledged his base is actually in Israel. He's acknowledged he's pro-endless wars. He's acknowledged he's pro-surveillance. He's against the Constitution.
Yeah, I mean, bro, he's everything that MAGA's against. Like, people say that Thomas Massey's a rhino. No. The guy you guys replaced with Thomas Massey is a rhino. Pro-draft, pro-mass surveillance. I mean, bro, there's a lot of things this guy's for that I think MAGA would be disgusted by. You would hope they would be, but I guess they hated Massey that much. But hear it out, because I was hearing this stuff as well from multiple sources about how this guy is like pro-war, pro-draft, pro-Israel. I mean, ain't really too much wrong with being pro-Israel. I ain't gonna be too much of a dick about it. But the pro-surveillance part is really concerning.
He's acknowledged he's pro-endless wars. He's acknowledged he's pro-surveillance. He's against the Constitution. He's perfectly happy for Americans to be miserable economically. He's perfectly happy to listen to purveyors of global misery like Miriam Adelson, which is totally consistent with the people in Thomas Massey's district who suffer from joblessness and drug addiction and depression. Now we get more of that. It's kind of nice that Donald Trump made it very clear that there's going to be more disdain, more contempt, more drug addiction, more surveillance, more protection of pedophiles.
Agreed.
It's kind of nice to know your enemy. And I think if you talk to people in the base, in the grassroots of the Republican Party, you'll notice that a lot of people are actually leaving.
It's exactly this kind of talk, which is why Ed Galbraith is now going to be the representative from Kentucky. Exactly this kind of talk. Republican primary voters heard this message. And they keep talking over me. They said,
no. The Republican primary voters seen that AI slop, and they was like, "Oh, Massey bad." No, what Republican voters seen was, you know what? We don't really know anything about this guy politics, but Trump gave him the thumbs up, so we'll go ahead and bring him on in. And remember, and here's the thing. Like, because of that risky move, I swear they're going to turn a Trump endorsement into a scarlet letter. I promise you guys, that's what's going to happen, because they're putting in these effing nobodies with no real, like, I'm gonna be real with you, with no real ideals to help their people, no real policy to help their people. They're just there as an Israeli plan, just to be another vote for a yes vote for Israel, to send weapons, funding, etc. That's why they replaced Massey, because he was always a no for Israel. That's why all these pro-Israel, all these Zionist billionaires went in on it, because they just needed another yes for Israel. It wasn't to help the American people. It wasn't even about, him disagreeing with Trump. It was all about being another vote for Israel. That's the truth. Okay, guys? There you go.
Trump talked over his supporters, the people who put him in office, Will. The people who put him in office voted for a very clear agenda, absolutely articulated over an entire decade. The people who voted for Thomas Massey in 24 are the same people who voted for Trump in 24. And they wanted less government surveillance. They wanted actually justice for pedophiles. They didn't want foreign wars. They didn't want more
If you were
economic.
right, Massey would have won, but he lost.
They don't want foreign interference in their country or in their district, and it's an absolute shame.
Here's the thing, though. You know what? We'd be able to accept Massey's loss if you didn't put $38 million into it. I'm sorry, but that's the problem. We understand that you bought a primary for $38 million while the other side only had like 500,000. So while they had very limited exposure, you guys had all the exposure in the world. Do you not see the problem in that? Do you not see the unfairness in that? I'm pretty sure if Massey had the same bag you guys was coming in, at least had like 30 million, he'd have won. But he only had like 500,000 to y'all 38 million, and nobody see the problem with that. I'm sorry, but that's our main argument when we said we need money out of politics so people can't do this bullshit. Like, exactly why. But all right.
But it is refreshing that Donald Trump has articulated that clearly, as he did last week when he said he does not care about Americans. He doesn't think about Americans before he makes decisions that impact their economic lives. So the other great thing is, the only straightforward thing that Ed Gallerin, deep state boob Ed Gallerin, who was too afraid to actually debate Massey, too afraid to articulate any of his positions beyond actually having a draft.
Facts.
So people in Kentucky now who can't find jobs, young people who can't find jobs, it's great. They can just go into the military and fight Israel's wars for Miriam Adelson, Paul Singer, and all the rest.
Okay, I want to bring in Clay. Clay, welcome back to Uncensored. First of all, I want to play...
Congrats to Arsenal.
Good man. I want to play a clip from Massey's concession speech.
You know, so effed up about my last point about them, taking Massey out because he always voted no on Israel. I promise you, if Massey was to vote yes on Israel but vote no on everything else, they wouldn't have put $38 million behind his opponent. Okay, guys? Say it again. If Massey voted no on everything else but voted yes on Israel, they wouldn't have put $38 million behind his opponent. Period, point blank.
And see what you think of this.
I would have come out sooner, but I had to call my opponent and concede, and it took a while to find Ed Gallerin in Tel Aviv.
Hey. Hilarious joke, by the way.
I did get to call for it, though. I have called and conceded the race. We've been honorable the whole time, and we're going to stay that way.
So making a joke there, clearly that his opponent is completely in the thrall and control of Israel. Ben Shapiro thinks this is all complete nonsense, unsurprisingly. Let's take a look at what he said.
Oh, boy.
The reality is that people who are pro-Israel do not like Thomas Massey because Thomas Massey has engaged in every conspiracy theory it is possible to engage.
People who are pro-Israel do not like Thomas Massey because every time there is a vote to send weapons to Israel or to send aid to Israel, he votes no. And you guys want all the support in our Senate that is possible. Why? Because you actually want to control our government. But that's besides the point. Well, that kind of goes into the point, but let's not worry about that right now. The main thing is that they wanted Massey out because he voted no on anything related to Israel, and honestly, anything that was related to foreign aid. If it includes sending money outside of America, he voted no on. So you can't even really say he had a thing against Israel. He had a thing against sending money outside of the United States. And I mean, let's be real. I think we all have a thing against that. But for some of y'all, when it comes to Israel, there's an exception. Oy vey.
And has made common cause with the most anti-Israel people. That's true. But the reason that Thomas Massey is actually in trouble is because the Trump administration has decided to oppose him on the basis of completely other issues. And so the usual game that is now played right now on the right, in the very podcastistan right,
what?
The game that is played is there will be a critique that has nothing to do with Israel. And the first thing you do is you claim that it's about Israel in an attempt to gin up.
I'm sorry, but what type of gaslighting is this, bro? Yeah, when Zionist billionaires, Israeli billionaires pull up and dump millions of dollars into the election, I think we can safely make it about Israel. I think that's a pretty safe, I would say, accusation, assumption, however you want to play it. I think it's safe to have it. Why? Because you're doing it right in our face.
The crazier part of the Republican base.
Now, I would say, Clay, that the trouble with Ben Shapiro's position is, and it may be why his own empire is crumbling like Rome in its last few days, is because he never accepts there is anything that could possibly be nefarious concerning anything to do with the Israeli government. And so I take what he says with a pinch of salt. And it is an undeniable fact that AIPAC and other pro-Israeli lobby groups put in over $9 million in a deliberate bid to unseat Massi. Now, I accept that two things can be true at once. That may be because they wanted to, and it may be totally unconnected with the fact that Trump wanted to get back at Massi for not backing his big, beautiful bill. But I don't think you have to be a massive conspiracy theorist to think there might be a link here. What are your thoughts?
I'll get into that, Piers. Let me start with this. The people of Kentucky's 4th Congressional District have agency. They can make choices. If Kamala Harris had been running against Thomas Massi and $1 billion.
I'm sorry, nobody's saying that they don't have agency, but like I said, when you push $38 million, you kind of dominate the commercial market. You dominate the media market with that. Like all the ads you guys are putting out, all the propaganda against Thomas Massi's small 500,000. Bro could probably afford like 10 ads. Y'all afforded 10,000. What are you talking about? I'm sorry, but if these two expend the exact same on that primary, Thomas Massi would have dusted this guy.
Had been spent on Kamala Harris in the 4th Congressional District, she would have lost. Every lobbying group in America could have spent money on the wrong candidate in Kentucky's 4th Congressional District, and it wouldn't have mattered, right? So ultimately, this race came down to a decision between two people. And the people of Kentucky's 4th Congressional District, and by the way, all my family is from Kentucky before they moved down to Nashville to work in the DuPont factory here. All of my dad's family was from Kentucky.
That too. Hold on, let me not forget that. Shout out Sid. I appreciate you for bringing that one up. There was also the fact that he was pretty pissed off at Massi for pretty much pushing the Epstein files. Him and Rohanna teamed up for the Epstein Transparency Act and pretty much pushed Trump to make the Republicans vote for it. Because remember, Trump was actually trying to get the Republicans to vote no on it. But because of Thomas Massi and Rohanna, they pretty much got Trump to concede on that. And I'll be real with you. He'd been pissed with, he'd been really, I say this, that's when he hit his peak with Thomas Massi over the Epstein files. He was a little bit pissed with him over the big, beautiful bill. But in the end, Thomas Massi did vote for it. The Epstein files was going completely against what Trump wanted and the deep state.
There's a lot of hardworking, tough people in Kentucky, and they went out and they listened to the arguments and they decided by 10 points that they thought Gowrine would represent them better than Massi and the interest that they had. Now, was Donald Trump a big part of that? Yes, because Donald Trump would still win the state of Kentucky by 20 plus points if we had a presidential election statewide right now. What this really came down to is
it's a red state. That doesn't mean anything. But okay, no, go ahead and keep making meaningless points.
Donald Trump is more popular in the Kentucky 4th Congressional District than Thomas Massi is. And whomever Trump decided he was going to endorse, I believe would have won. Just like happened in Indiana with the state senators, just like we saw happen in Louisiana with the Senate race. Trump is more popular
but here's the problem. Y'all didn't extremely outspend in those primary races. Y'all didn't have to do all that. Yeah, y'all still outspend the opponent, but not 38 million to 500,000. Like y'all didn't do that type of spending, and that kind of let you guys, and that let everybody know that, oh, it doesn't look like we can just say, oh, Massi bad, and it's gonna get that guy over the line. We gotta put 38 million behind him and say Massi's bad and a Trump endorsement to get this guy to the victory. Don't you think that's a bit much? And does like everybody's gonna look at that like, yo, y'all did a lot to get this man Massi out, and then to include that as pro-Zionist money that went into this, now y'all look even crazier.
South, I live in Nashville, than any elected official anywhere in the South. And so if Trump comes out and says, this is my guy or this is my gal, his supporters are going to go out and vote. I actually think
then why did they pour a record-breaking number of money into Kentucky? Why did these billionaires pour a record-breaking amount of money into Kentucky? Are they just dumb?
I'm just saying, yeah, if they were so confident in this candidate, why you pour so much money into it? Like, think about it like this. Let's go back to the election with Kamala Harris and Trump. you could tell they weren't too confident in Kamala Harris as a candidate because they dumped a shitload of money into her, like a lot, to the point where they damn near went in debt. This guy, you could tell they weren't confident because Thomas Massey was comfortable with spending $500,000, but they was like, oh, yo, no, you're going to need about 38 million. Like, I'm sorry, but that's over 10xing. I mean, that's like, I'm sorry, 80xing what this guy was spending.
You realize
they wasted it?
Let me just answer your question. Kamala spent $1 billion more in 2024 than President Trump's campaign did. If you talk to them, they believe if they'd had Kamala's money, they would have won in New Jersey and they would have won in Virginia. They won all 7 swing states. They spent money because in order to beat an incumbent, you have to make people aware that there is a challenger there. Everybody in the whole district knew Massey already. There's a reason, if you go to Louisiana, that no Republican incumbent senator had lost before 2012. Name recognition matters. If you have a brand new candidate that nobody knows, you have to introduce them to the district. Massey had been elected
You need three. You need Miriam Adelson.
I think this was not about Israel. This was not about Israel. This was about the fact
why was
that
Miriam
Donald Trump
Adelson involved? Why was Miriam Adelson involved? Why was she so involved? Why was her money so decisive?
There is a very small majority right now in the House. And the Trump team was frustrated because Massey, representing a rock-ribbed Trump district, was not supporting the primary agenda, the big, beautiful bill, trying to move on from the Epstein story. Has there been any benefit? He promised that there were going to be all these charges brought. And instead of being 100% behind President Trump's agenda, as the voters of Kentucky's 4th congressional district have now shown that they want their representative to be, he decided that he wanted to fight President Trump. He has that right.
Marjorie Taylor Greene voted for the big, beautiful bill. Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Hold on. I think it helps Thomas Massey to argue, oh, Israel's against me, instead of pointing out the truth, which is he wasn't
why would he
supportive
think
enough
that?
of President Trump's agenda for the people of Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, like, why would he think that? Oh, is it because 3 pro-Israeli billionaires came in and just poured billions into his opponent? Like, yeah, why would he think that? Like, that's just so weird of him to ever think something so crazy. Is like, okay, yeah, you're right. A whole bunch of Zionists pulled up and poured millions into your opponent's election, but that doesn't mean, that it's about Israel. And yeah, it's true that you always vote no, and the pro-Israel side always gets mad at you for that, but it doesn't mean that they would just come after you like that. I'm sorry, but if you're thinking that, bro, you are going. Like, that is just complete gullibility. Like, or you're just running cover. Complete cover, like my man Benny Johnson. Like, bro, if you hear this man Benny Johnson's argument, oh my god, I was like, you know what? Benny Johnson is the reason why the Dems are using the term cuck-servative. Okay, it's people like Benny Johnson.
Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yo, Benny Johnson literally said, get down with the donor corruption. Get down with them pretty much buying whatever seat they want. You gonna get down with it and stop being a crybaby about it. I was like, yep, okay. Yep. You can get down on your knees for that man, but not me, bro. You got it.
He voted for the big Marjorie Taylor Greene voted for the big, beautiful bill. She was on Trump's side with every domestic policy issue that you just said Massey impeded. Her blasphemy was the same as
Trump is more popular in Marjorie. Did you listen to me?
I know you don't want this point. I know you don't want this point out. I know you don't want this point out. But no, because it's bullshit. Everything, this whole narrative is bullshit. This is all about anger at Massey because he voted against the big, beautiful bill. He was at least as angry at Marjorie Taylor Greene, even though she voted.
And that's what I'm saying. It's just like, no, it's not about the big, beautiful bill. It's about him voting against Israel. That's why the pro-Israelis guys went in on him. And then the Epstein files, he pretty much went in completely against Republicans and Trump with that. AKA, he's a nuisance to the deep state. And y'all voted him out.
For the big, beautiful bill. Marjorie Taylor Greene. It's not just Israel. It's not just Israel.
We don't.
Then why does every U.S. politician make
Well, hang on. Don't talk over each other. Hang on one sec. Clay, on that last point, on that last point, I would take issue with that because there is some really shocking polling about Israel in America, which is that nearly 2/3 of Americans now have a negative view of Israel. So they're not disengaged in the way that you think.
That doesn't mean that Israel is the most important issue in America.
I didn't say the most important issue.
Israel is in the top
No, but it's the most important issue. Okay, but the most important issue. Okay, hang on. Okay, but the most important. Hang on one second, Buckley. The most. I will come to all of you. The most important issue in America, according to the polling, is cost of living, and there is a direct line between cost of living and Israel, because if you believe the New York Times report
and the Iran war,
let me paint a picture for you, Clay, where there is a link, which is that the New York Times reported several weeks ago that it was Israel that basically persuaded Trump to go in on the strikes on Iran. The Iran war has become, I'm afraid, an increased.
Yeah, you want to know what else the New York Times also reported in their, what was it? I think it was in their opinions column. They pretty much reported and verified the fact that in Israeli prisons, Palestinians are being pretty much raped. Like, bro. And then Israel was now trying to sue the New York Times for what? Blood libel or slander or whatever, even though they done fact-checked it, asked guards, asked prisoners, and all that good stuff. But apparently you say anything against Israel, man. Oh, man, they're on your ass. Oy vey.
Fiasco, mainly because of the situation with the Strait of Hormuz, not because America hasn't pounded with the Israelis, the Iranian military, but the Iranian regime remains intact. They remain in control of the Strait of Hormuz. They remain with a tight grip now on the global energy economy. They are threatening to launch another barrage of missiles over at their Gulf state neighbors, which we know has pretty much, not paralyzed, but caused enormous damage to their ability to develop their new business model away from oil to safe tourism and so on. So, this has not been going the way that everyone was assured it would go. And a lot of people, Clay, my point to bring it together is that they believe that Trump was persuaded to do it by Israel. He's now come out today and said Netanyahu does what I tell him. A lot of people think it was the other way around with that decision. And that decision has had a massively negative impact on the cost of living to Americans, which is actually the number one issue they care about. And the interesting little twist, which I want you to explain to me, and then I'll get Glenn to respond to it, is notwithstanding that, Trump appears to still be wielding a lot of political power in the party. And my question would be, could he wield that power on his own, given his own very poor approval ratings right now, without the money from these billionaire Israeli donors? I think it's an interesting question.
I don't think that Massey would have won if Israel had not spent $1, right? If Miriam Adelson.
Bro, that is just delusional to say. I'm sorry, but no, if bro would have got, remember, nobody knows who he is in that district whatsoever. He just came in off the wind. And you're telling me that, he'd have won without that $38 million? Bro, you're being delusional. Now you're just being delusional. They needed that $38 million to actually push him out there and push him hard out there. Like, without it, if he just spent the same thing as Thomas Massey, bro, Thomas Massey would have got like 80% of the votes. He'd have completely cooked that guy. So let's not sit here and pretend like he didn't win because of that $38 million. Let's not sit here and pretend like that wasn't a factor.
But if AIPAC had not spent $1, Massey lost because President Trump is more popular in his district than Massey is. And as soon as President Trump said, Galrein is my guy, most of that money was spent to introduce Galrein. Now, to answer your question more direct, that's my opinion. I think the data will reflect it. Nobody knew him. They had to introduce him. That's why they had to spend so much money. He's running against an incumbent that everybody in the whole district knew on the Republican side. Now, on your point, you may remember this, Piers. I'm going to be vindicated on this. Do you remember when I was on your show in the middle of the tariff wars and everybody, the stock market was down at 5,000, and I came on and I told you, Piers, I will wear a clown nose on your show.
You did.
If within a year the stock market is not massively higher than it is on this day. It's now up 50% since then. I will make a promise to you, Piers. If the gas prices right now, $4.50 per gallon on average, all 50 states, that's an average. If they are not 75 cents lower by the time of election day, much lower than they are today, I will come on the day after the
At this point, every time I hear a MAGA pundit talk about, the stock market, I'm like, you're just really trying to cover for the fact that, affordability is worse. Like, that's literally what they're doing. They're saying, look, don't look at the rising prices, look at the rising stock market. Like, bro, really, bro? Like, I'm not gonna lie, that is hilarious what they are doing to you guys. I'm not even going, like, come on, guys. They're literally saying, don't look at the rising prices, just look at the stock market go up as you can afford things.
Emotional damage.
Man.
Term elections with a bright red nose for you. I believe President Trump.
I think you're going to be wearing a big bright red nose.
I believe President Trump knows and understands how to resolve this situation
in
Iran.
He doesn't.
I think that he is going to do so before the midterm election dates. I think by Labor Day, the price of oil and gas will be down substantially in America, and I think America will be safer than it was before.
All right, Glenn, I'm not buying that narrative for the simple reason I don't think Trump has control of this war. I think the Iranians have been militarily hammered, but in terms of their asymmetric strategy involving the Strait of Hormuz and the Gulf neighbors, I think they still maintain quite a large degree of control over what happens here. I think Trump's desperate to get out of this war, but trying to work out how he can do it where it doesn't look like actually some kind of surrender or defeat. And it all comes down to this claim he now says the whole war's been about stopping them having a nuclear weapon. Okay, but the enriched uranium remains buried away. There's no sign of the Iranians wanting to hand that over. I don't know why they would, because they'd lose all their leverage. The Strait of Hormuz remains in Iranian control. And so, again, I'm not disputing the military overwhelming superiority of the Americans and Israelis, but I don't see how you can claim at the moment that this war is not just dragging on exactly in the way that Donald Trump said he would always try and avoid. It's just becoming slowly a bit of a forever situation because the Iranians are like, well, we can keep controlling the Strait of Hormuz and keep our enriched uranium buried away until the cows come home. And Trump doesn't want to get engaged again in military strikes, but Netanyahu does. And again, comes back to the Israeli element here of competing agendas. What do you think?
First of all, just quickly on the whole narrative that's been pushed here. Marjorie Taylor Greene, like I said, has become public enemy #1 for Trump. He drove her out of Congress, called her a traitor repeatedly. She voted for the big, beautiful bill. She voted for all of Trump's domestic issues. Her blasphemy was that she began objecting to Trump's wars in the Middle East, bombing of Yemen, arming the Israelis, bombing Iran, getting involved in a new war with Iran.
True.
So the idea that it was just because Massey voted against a bill that Marjorie Taylor Greene voted for when she got treated.
Bro, all the people who originally stood up like for MAGA, like what we originally voted Trump in for, pretty much got all. Well, now Marjorie Taylor Greene quit. Massey, he lost his seat. And Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and the rest of the America First guys have been pretty much pushed to the side for Laura Loomer, Mark Levin, and Lindsey Graham.
Least as badly, if not worse, than Massey is just laughable. Again, it's the kind of thing that's just designed to insult the audience intelligence that it wasn't about Israel. But on the Iran war, I think, everybody knew that the U.S. was going to have military superiority. We had complete military superiority within weeks in the war in Iraq. Obviously, we had total military superiority over the skies of Afghanistan. They didn't have a Navy. They didn't have an Air Force. And yet we got dragged into these endless conflicts because asymmetrical fighting when you're defending your own country is an extremely powerful way of fighting off larger powers. And the Iranians are obviously enraged that they were attacked by the United States and Israel. They have their own domestic population to deal with. They can't look like they've capitulated either because that will then crumble or erode the entire justification for that regime, which is to protect the Iranian people, keep it a proud Persian nation. If Trump has been lying about this war from the start, saying from basically the beginning, the Iranians are in their.
I gotta hear, dog. I gotta hear. Yo, Blast Phantom, tell me what main issues. I gotta hear what main issues did Trump? I mean, not my bad, but did Massey go against Trump on? None at all. I cannot name one. Okay, hold on. Maybe the war and the Epstein files. But those are two things that Trump, well, except for the Epstein files, but no new war is something that Trump ran on. And we could damn near say the Epstein files since he said he's going to be the most transparent government ever. You remember that? Most transparent government gave us pages of redactions. That doesn't sound like transparency to me. I'm just going to keep it real, my man.
knees. They're begging for any kind of surrender. They want to give us everything in exchange for nothing. He announced 6 weeks ago they agreed to give over the quota.
No, he didn't. He did not vote against immigration shutdown. Massey's all for the mass immigration, mass deportation. So what like what? I don't. All right, bro. You gotta be more details with that one. No. See, that's what I'm saying. You believe the propaganda. They lied to you about my man Massey. But it is what it is.
Unquote nuclear dust. They agreed to stop funding Hezbollah and Hamas. They agreed to essentially everything that he wanted in exchange for nothing. And of course, that was all false because the Iranians know they have immense leverage. Trump's only choices are to restart the war, which will not only make Will have to come on and wear a gigantic red nose.
Well, Will might be. It's actually Clay. It was Clay that would have to do that. But I'm quite happy to put the same challenge to Will.
They both should wear one.
We get them both on the red noses.
Yeah, they both should absolutely wear one the next time they come on. Give it all this. But
people made a lot of money if they listened to me and kept their stocks. Stocks are at record highs. Unemployment's at a low rate.
To be fair to Clay, you were right about that.
But the stock market, rich people always do well in the United States. You can work. Trump can restart the war, and he can get involved into a Middle East conflict like the one he repeatedly promised he wouldn't do, or he can just stop the war and be humiliated because none of the goals that he set out he was going to achieve will actually be achieved because the Iranians won't cooperate, because why would they? Or it could just be this third option where everything stays frozen, in which case there's no oil transiting through the Strait of Hormuz. Gas.
And that's what Iran is echoing right now. Iran is literally telling us that, yo, we want you to recognize our permanent administration over the Strait of Hormuz. I was like, hey, yo, they're getting that bold. AKA, they're saying, hey, look, you just gave us something that we didn't even know well, I'm gonna be honest with you. This kind of shows either Iran's restraint or they just didn't know how well they could close the strait, because they could have been charged fees, been basically control a key aspect of the global economy, but they haven't. Until we decide to pop this war off with them. And now all of a sudden we're in this situation. It's like we walked in there with a couple goals and then we added a whole new one of opening the strait when we attacked Iran. And here's the thing. Iran told us they were going to do this. They told us they were going to close the strait before we attacked them. And they told us they were going to attack our allies in the Gulf regions and destroy our bases if we attacked them. And they did all of that. All of that was completed.
Prices continue to go up. All these massive secondary effects on the world economy continue to cause massive suffering, not only around the world, but especially in the United States, against the people that Trump promised, whose life he was going to improve. If he had a way out of the war, the war would be over already. The reason the war is not over is because Trump has no way out.
Just let terrorists continue to engage in terrorism in the Strait of Hormuz.
It's such a manipulative way.
Iran has control of the Strait of. Hold on.
Yeah, here's a problem with that, though. It's like, one, they want reparations. And I don't think we're going to give them reparations, but we will give them sanction relief. I'll tell you that right now. We'll give them sanction relief, but reparations is out the question, because that'll literally be giving them money. And I mean, that'd be way worse than what Obama did. Oh, like Obama did sanction relief. All right, we can get down with bigger sanction release with Trump, but actually giving these guys money. Oh, yeah, that would be outrageous. And they're actually like $1 trillion to repair their buildings and all that good stuff. Yeah, I mean, bro, we barely got $1 trillion to pay our debt, to pay the interest on our debt. Ain't no way we're doing that. And also, Massey he didn't vote against the big, beautiful bill. He voted against the pork in the big, beautiful bill. Because if you looked at the original version, it had no regulations on AI for 10 years. And then it didn't even include a good amount of the Doge cuts. Remember, Thomas Massey came out and made his position clear that, these cuts should be more. There's not enough. And that's the reason why he voted no. So pretty much he was making sure that MAGA, which was supposed to be, I guess, me and you, got everything we wanted.
Iran has control of the Strait of Hormuz, which, by the way, they don't have at all because we put a blockade. But the only reason they have any aspect of strategic capability is because they're threatening to blow up people who are innocently traversing the Strait of Hormuz. That is basically, they are terrorists threatening to take hostage the entire global economy.
Which is what the U.S. is doing to Cuba. Which is what the U.S. is doing to Cuba. It's what the U.S. is doing to Cuba.
Because they are crazy.
It's what the Israelis are doing to Gaza. And it's what the Israelis are doing.
Let me bring in the two others, because you guys have had a lot of airtime here. Let me bring in Will Chamberlain. I mean, as Glenn just said, Clay just said the Iranians are crazy. I wouldn't say that Donald Trump's social media posts of the last 3 months have been exactly the most non-crazy stuff I've read in recent years. I mean, you could say it's even crazier than the Iranians. 1 minute he's going to annihilate the entire country, 90 million people, and he's going to do it in the next few hours. Next minute he wants a deal. Then he's going to annihilate them again. Then he wants a deal. Then he's going to do this. Then he's going to do that. U-turn after U-turn, change the plan. And what it says to me, knowing Trump very well, is that he wants to get out of this thing, and he's trying to work out a way of getting out of it. But if at the end, Will, and we've debated the Iran war, so we don't have to relitigate all that again between you and me, but if at the end of this, and I don't know quite how this ends, frankly, because I think it's in the Iranian interest to string it out as long as possible, but if it ends with the Iranian regime still in place, with the former supreme leader's son running the show as the new supreme leader, with the IRGC still in a tight control of its people, with the people not rising up at all, because they haven't done so far in 3 months, for a number of reasons, but they haven't, and with the Strait of Hormuz still having some form of control by the Iranian regime, perhaps even putting tolls on stuff that didn't exist before the war started, where's the victory? And if they keep their enriched uranium, where is the victory?
You're right that wouldn't be a victory, and you're hypothetical, which is why President Trump won't let it come to pass. I think.
Guys, make sure you guys smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Oh, yeah, and I put a goal in the chat. Let's see if we can get the 10 super chats to keep this streaming running a whole lot longer. Appreciate the support, guys. And if not, at least make sure that you like the video. All right, let's get right back into it.
That's the simplest way to understand that. President Trump is no fool. He understands that a world where Iran retains its enriched uranium and control over the Strait of Hormuz would be a world where the United States, if it withdraws, would have lost the war strategically. So he's not going to do that. Very simple. So there's basically the options available to him that he's actually going to take are, as Glenn put it, options, I think, number 1 and 3, which are escalate, which I think is the most likely outcome here. I think President Trump is likely going to escalate within the next week or two, or kind of maintain the blockade and try and suffocate the Iranian economy.
But if he escalates, Will, if he escalates, sorry to jump in, but if he escalates, the IRGC have already let it be known that if there's any escalation again in military strikes, they will launch a barrage again, and they've got still over 1,000 ballistic missiles.
Yeah, according to our CIA, yes, according to our own intelligence, they're saying that they still maintain over 70% of their pre-war stockpile. And then the leader of the Iranian parliament pretty much saying that, yo, yeah, if you strike us again, too, we'll actually go towards that 90% enrichment. So is attacking Iran really the best plan? Of course not. But will they do it anyway? Most likely.
Reportedly, they will launch a barrage at their Gulf state neighbors who are already feeling a very, very hard pinch from this, both economically and I think in terms of their alliances and in terms of their security and everything. The last thing they want, when they've already lost a lot of people who've gone home, who migrated there, tourism is obviously on its knees. If there's an escalation again, and that carries it through the summer, it's going to be absolutely devastating for the whole region. And everyone knows that because we've seen it already. So how does Trump escalate without the Iranians escalating in a way that just makes this even worse?
I think you have to do something like what you did at the beginning of Operation Epic Fury. I mean, there was all sorts of talk that tens of thousands of Americans would die. Well, I mean, if Epic Fury started out and everybody
I would have to ask them, like, bro, what did we get out of Epic Fury? I mean, did we get regime change? No. I mean, did the Iranians control the Strait? Actually, they controlled the Strait because we started Operation Epic Fury. Ain't that about a bitch? So, I mean, what have we completed? Have we decimated their military completely? Like their Navy? No, because their navies was keeping the Strait closed. Have we decimated like anything of Iran's to where we're making them defenseless? Not at all. So what has Operation Epic Fury honestly got us, since you're so dedicated, or since he's so dedicated to the idea of, well, maybe we need to resume strikes. Maybe this is what we need to do. What, the strikes that didn't get us anything but further inside of this conflict?
Tens of thousands of Americans would die if we did something like that. Actually, we lost a total of 13, probably roughly the same amount we would have lost in normal peacetime military operations. I think the United States military is extraordinarily capable in the event that we decide to escalate things and restart. We will do enormous damage to Iran's ability to threaten both either us or our Gulf Arab allies. And that will be the answer to your question.
You sound extremely optimistic about that with no real reason to. I don't see the evidence that would
I mean,
be
I think I have a lot of reason to be. The
Well,
military the military
we were
success
told this would all be over, Will, in 2 to
the
3
Midnight
weeks.
Hammer.
I remember being assured this would be over in 2 to 3 weeks. Then it was 6 weeks. We're now 3 months into this thing.
I was told 4 days. Day one, I was told 4 days to 2 weeks. Bro, we're about to go into the 3rd month, man. Like, it's really hard to hear the arguments after that. And especially since we have no results after all these days. Like, bro, we're claiming that we're doing a blockade to collapse their economy. And that's not even working. And for those of you who are wondering, if you're new here, like, if you're wondering why that's not working, well, geographically, Iran's just in a very clutch place to where a blockade is almost impossible to affect them when it comes to the fact that their biggest buyers is China and Russia. So let's go to this little map right here. And let's go ahead and zoom in on Iran. Boom. Now, you see this big-ass body of, big old body of water right here. This is called the Caspian Sea. And the Caspian Sea leads right into Russia and Kazakhstan, which has a railway that goes right into China. And then guess what? They don't even got to use the Caspian Sea to get to China. I mean, they could just go over here to their allies over here in Pakistan and get right in there. Right in there. Getting their money. And, over here where the color wires at are our internet cables that are, laid across the world under the sea. But this is where the Strait of Hormuz is. And since we're doing a blockade over here and they can just go through the Caspian Sea or right through Pakistan, I mean, is this blockade really working, guys? Just geographically speaking.
Launched barrage after barrage after barrage until they stopped barraging. And it didn't achieve any of the goals that were supposedly the goals of the war. So doing more barraging is fine, but all that will mean
that's just not true.
Well, it is true.
Mm-hmm.
Who controls the Strait of Hormuz?
Iranian military capability.
Who controls the Strait of Hormuz?
That was achieved in spades.
Yeah, but who controls the Strait of Hormuz?
Actually, I mean, the United States.
Oh, come on.
The problem is also Iran is threatening to harass shipping, but the United States actually does control the Strait of Hormuz.
Oh, stupid. Oh, man. No, that's stupid. A banger. Oh, no, we control the Strait of Hormuz, even though they're the ones regulating ships to go through. They're the ones collecting fees for these ships to go through. But, oh, no, we're the ones who control it. Like, really, bro?
What did he say?
Like, all right, bro. I ain't gonna lie. You deserve all the sound effects for that one. Like, oh, boy. Oh, boy. Delusional. But he sounded so intelligent saying it, though. Did he not? Like, let's go back on the delusion.
Who controls the Strait of Hormuz?
Iranian military capability.
Who controls the Strait of Hormuz?
That was achieved in spades.
Yeah, but who controls the Strait of Hormuz?
Actually, I mean, the United States.
Oh, come on.
The problem is also Iran is threatening to harass shipping, but the United States actually does control the Strait of Hormuz because we have a navy in Iran.
That's complete delusional nonsense. Of course they don't.
I mean,
well, then why can't Iran get its ships out?
Why can't the rest of the world get their?
Oh, bro. Oh, that was too funny, man. Everybody in the panel looking at this guy like, did you really just say that America controls the strait? Like, did you really believe the peak Hegseth Fed slop? Did you really believe that, bro? No, Iran still has control of this strait, man. Trust me. If America had control of the strait wouldn't be closed. Like, are you serious? Oh, man. It's like the fact that he said it is just too funny. No, I'm just going to keep it pushing. I could barely react. I'm sorry.
Tankers through, unless it's approved by Iran.
Because they're not willing to take the risk of Iranian harassment. But that doesn't mean that they have like meaningful control over the strait.
That means we don't control the strait, dumbass. If we can't sit there and assure that these ships can make it through on our will, on our command, and they can only make it through on Iran's, that means they control it. Like, are you serious? Oh yeah. All right, it is what it is. I can't, bro.
They can grasp.
Surely the people that control,
who actually has the ability to blockade,
actually control,
who can control what ships go in and out.
Well, you think America's controlling what ships are going in and out?
Maybe you're making an argument that the United States and Iran currently share control of the Strait of Hormuz.
Just to be clear, you think the United States is controlling access through the Strait of Hormuz right now?
Yeah, effectively, yeah.
That's complete nonsense.
They have a full blockade on all the Iranian ports.
We've almost reached the stage. I'm not singling you out for this, but we've almost reached the stage of Baghdad Bob. You know, old comical Ali. You remember him? the guy in the Iraq War in 2003? He was literally standing there going, "There's no sign of the Americans," and they were literally blowing things up behind him.
Nah, he deserves all the ridicule in the world for that one. Just for that. Why? Because just sit there and say, oh no, you know, we're controlling the Strait of Hormuz. I'm like, bro, if that was the case, wouldn't even be talking about the Strait right now. And gas price would probably be $1.30 cheaper. But okay, though. Okay.
Right?
Okay, then why can't Iran ship anything?
Well, you're so desperate for this to be true.
Why can't the rest of the world? Well, why can't the rest of the world? That's what he's asking you.
Again, I already
Why can't
explained
the rest
that
of the
they're
world
harassing
go
it, but
through
like, again, this is, I guess we're having a semantic debate about control, right?
Semantic.
Like, obviously,
It's the
Iran still
crucial
retains
part.
the ability to harass
It's the
shipping, but they
crucial
don't
part
control
of
it
the
in the same
whole
way that
thing.
the Americans do because they don't have boats.
But it's the crucial part of the whole
What's up?
thing. The Iranians have realized they can wage an asymmetric war involving controlling a small stretch of water, which is preventing a lot of the world's energy
Hold on.
getting out.
Piers, let me. You're saying asymmetric war.
Yes.
They are threatening terrorism, right? I mean, this is like saying, hey, the
Well, not really. I don't think in this case. I think they are an appalling regime, very capable of propping up terror groups all over the Middle East.
Let me just play out the analogy here.
I would say that responding to attacks by the American and Israeli military, I wouldn't categorize Iran responding to that as terrorism, would you?
Well, I would. Hold on. I would, because
By
if
flinging
you
missiles at
respond
all
to
their
the
neighbors, I
American,
would.
yeah, but if you respond to
anyone
American
could attack
military
Iran
attack,
in a war, but if they fight back, they're terrorists. Is that your argument?
No, let me explain.
Yes.
No, let me explain.
The same
If they
principle
fire
in
back at the
Lebanon.
United States, they are returning fire at us. That's not terrorism. That's a war, right? If they are threatening to blow up non-U.S. flagged, which they are, international ships, if they happen to pass by Iran, that is terrorism. And Piers, let me use
Yeah,
that.
I mean, terrorism, piracy. No, that's true. But here's the thing, though. They wasn't doing that before this war, and they're only doing it because of our act of aggression. So if we didn't want this to happen, then we should have never popped off this war to Iran. Trump could have just kept his campaign promises and focused on affordability. But no, he just had to listen to Bibi. I mean, when, past U.S. presidents all understood that, you know what, sometimes you just got to tell Bibi no and kick rocks and do it yourself.
Example, you wouldn't say that Al-Qaeda controls American airports because we all have to go through the TSA to be concerned about whether they might blow up airplanes. Terrorism, that is what Iran is threatening.
That's the most torturous argument I think I've ever heard.
They are threatening.
You're comparing the TSA to the Strait of Hormuz situation.
In the same way the TSA controls an airport, right? Because they make sure that there are no terrorists trying to kill people.
Right.
The United States blockade controls the Strait of Hormuz.
There isn't a
because
blockade.
They are trying to keep
That's the whole
terrorists
point.
from
They stopped
killing
the blockade after about 2 days because it wasn't working.
No, the blockade is there. Iran can't get their oil out.
But tankers are coming through. Tankers are coming through with Iran's permission. That's not a blockade, is it? The tankers that are coming through are with Iran's permission, not America's.
Yeah.
Where's the blockade?
Iranian oil is not going out unless the United States allows it. It's crazy that we allow.
No, you're not hearing them. Iran is allowing other countries through the Strait on their permission. Like, if you look at the Strait of Hormuz and do I need to actually bring up a picture of the Strait real quick so this man understands? Because you got to understand, they control the key point of the Strait. Like, they got to get through Iran's control of the Strait first to get to the naval blockade set up by the U.S. Excuse me. So if Iran is the only way these ships can go through to even reach the naval blockade of the U.S., who controls the Strait? Iran, because they control the first checkpoint. If you don't check in with them and pay that fee, you won't even get to the U.S. naval blockade. That's going to let you through because you're not an Iranian ship.
Out Iran to continue to pump, even while we're bombing the country, we've allowed Iranian oil and gas to continue to be pumped. Well, right now, Piers, what they're running into is they don't have the capacity to store all the oil and gas in Iran, which is why their economy is in complete shambles.
Well, actually, I've read that is also a massive exaggeration of the reality, and that they can keep this going for months and months without any problem. I don't know. I'm just reading a lot of counter.
Yeah, according to our CIA assessment says that Iran can last out to 6 months with the blockade. And like I said, if you look at the map that I showed you, like geographically, they can get to their biggest buyer, China, through Pakistan. They can take the Caspian Sea up to Russia. So what's really stopping them from getting to their biggest buyers? That's why it's going to take about 6 months to act for actually any real damage to get set in, or for the blockade to, I guess, collapse the economy the way they wanted to. But let me go ahead and get over to this real quick, though. This is the Strait of Hormuz, if you ain't know. See, as you see, Iran's coastline, pretty much takes up the entire strait. And this is the part that they need to control right here, this little bend right here. And they do control it. They do. So unless you pay that fee to Iran and you let them guide you through, you're not going to get to that naval blockade that's right here. So Iran controls here. The naval blockade that the U.S. imposing right now is over here. That's the problem here. So how can we control the strait when they control checkpoint 1? And if they can't get past checkpoint 1, then they're definitely not going to get to checkpoint 2. Now do you get why the blockade is not really? Now you get why the blockade is not working, and do you also get why we don't control the strait? As Wilt Chamberlain was trying to say, because geographically it's just not working out for us.
The argument to that point, which has been a point made a lot, and I'm not really sure that's true. Let me bring Buckley back in. But I mean, Buckley, we're almost. I mean, in a way, the war has got asymmetric elements to it. This panel is now a completely asymmetric panel because you've got people who are wanting me to believe that America has full control of the Strait of Hormuz, that it's won the war militarily. So I'm not really sure what the problem is. How is it that the rest of the world is looking at this going, where's all our energy? Why are gas prices going through the roof? Why is gas price at the pump in America double where it was? If everything is as you guys are trying to sell it to me, and it's a bit of snake oil stuff going on here, then I don't know what the problem is.
It's terrorists are extracting a cost.
I mean, why aren't the Iranians just handing over the uranium and we all go home? Buckley.
That's why Clay's TSA analogy actually was accurate in that TSA doesn't keep Americans safer. It's total absurd feeder. People are suffering as a result.
I hate that I have to defend
saying
TSA.
America decimated.
I'm a big fan of TSA, by the way.
A year and a half ago, and now we're at war because we're worried about them having nuclear capability. It's ridiculous. We don't have control of the Strait of Hormuz. That's just clearly obvious. By the way, if you're going to wear a red nose, Clay, I would say you should, but instead you should go to Kentucky, talk to some of your relatives, maybe buy some gas for some of the people in Massey's district or in Nashville, or buy a $5 gallon of milk for them. Let people seriously.
But honest question, I have a lot of family that lives in Kentucky.
Trump made.
Why did they not vote for Massey?
Because you told them not to.
They didn't. They were completely deluged with foreign money. They were.
Okay,
yes,
so
Trump
you think the people of
I would just say. Let me go back. Actually, let me ask you this question. You said that the money didn't have any effect. This was to introduce an unknown candidate, Gowron, to the electorate. On the fact that the guy, all his constituents, sheep, wouldn't actually debate Massey and said he was for a draft. What else is what's the entirety of Gowron's policy?
I mean, here's the problem. The fact that they voted for somebody who wouldn't pull up to debate Thomas Massey is crazy. And here's the thing. If he'd have pulled up to that debate, Thomas Massey would just expose how he's just some Israeli shill who don't even know a damn thing about the district. Like, I think that's why he didn't pull up to that debate. And he was just so sure that $38 million can get him across the line. And here's the thing. That's why a lot of people are coming out with this conspiracy theory that it's rigged because, well, bro is a little too confident. Like, when you don't pull up to a debate against a guy who's ran that district, who won every election in that district for the past, 10 years, and you don't pull up for a debate against that guy, what does that tell you? That means that you have a different type of confidence that you're just going to win it. It's like when Trump didn't show up for the Republican primary debate. He just knew he was going to win it.
What's his policy platform that $33 million actually conveys?
It's a fair question. I trust the people of Kentucky's 4th congressional district to pick the person that they think best represents their interests. They believe, whether you agree or disagree with it, they believe that President Trump represents their interest better than Thomas Massey. And anyone that Trump endorsed, I believe, would have beaten Thomas Massie, just like in Indiana and just like in Louisiana. Trump is the most popular politician in any of these congressional districts that are represented by Republicans.
But if that's the case, all right, but Clay, I'm not saying you're wrong, but if that's the case, why is Trump's personal approval rating so bad? If he's that popular, how can he be also simultaneously so unpopular?
It's a good question, Piers, and I would ask you this. Trump is the most popular politician in America right now. Who is a politician nationwide that has a higher approval rating than President Trump? I don't think there is one. There's no Democrat that's more popular than Trump. I think there's just a lot of angry people in America. And maybe the panel here represents that pretty well. Whether you're a Democrat, whether you're a Republican, whether you're an independent, people are just angry. And if you want my theory on why that is, inflation went up so high. I understand it. Every time I go through a Chick-fil-A drive-through for my 3 boys, I have to pay over $50 for a fast food meal. That is lunacy.
I mean,
things
that's Chick-fil-A.
cost way too much because inflation went to 9% under Biden. Affordability is by far the #1 issue that people care about, and people haven't gotten used to how much everything skyrocketed in cost.
The problem is, okay, but that's, you see, the problem is, you see, your red nose challenge. The risk, I think, to you in this, and I'm going to include Will in this because he's pretty well launched himself under the same horse, is that you are making a bet that Trump, the great deal maker, can extricate himself from this Iran war. And I'm not sure that he can. And I think the really interesting issue, which again brings it back to Israel, is that I think that Netanyahu is sensing that Trump wants to get out of this, and he wants him to do the opposite. He wants him to double and treble and quadruple down on the military side to try and destroy the regime, get the uranium and so on. So you're going to have competing national interests there. The more that Netanyahu is at war somewhere, and currently he's at war there and in Lebanon, the more he's at war, the more popular he gets within the confines of Israel. However, if you're Israeli, I would say to you, but your country becomes more unpopular around the world as a consequence. So where's the trade-off there? Buckley, what was interesting was that Will posted something that Ted Cruz clearly enjoyed because he reposted it, which is this, we've got a picture of it here, claiming that Massey's kiss of death was when he was on Tucker, your brother's podcast. What do you feel about that allegation?
I think it's an absurd claim. Tucker is a journalist who gave Massey an opportunity to articulate his principled stance on things. They've been consistent for the 12 years he's been in Congress. It's in line with the program that Donald Trump has been articulating for more than 10 years as well, and exactly what people expected when they voted Donald Trump into office. So I'd love to see some exit polling from Kentucky. I haven't seen it. I don't believe for a moment that what Will Chambers says is true.
So are you pretty convinced, Buckley, that it was the Israeli influence? It was the millions pumped in from the Israeli donors, and there was an Israeli component to why they wanted Massey to lose. It was because he was becoming ever more strident in his criticism of the Israeli government.
I think it's undeniable. Why else? What other rationale would there be for Miriam Adelson, Paul Singer, and John Paulson and others who've articulated their loyalty lies with Israel, that they want more, Iran or Israel wars fought by America, and they want more foreign funding? I don't know.
I just have to add one point to this. Wait, I just have to add one point to this because it's driving me insane. This narrative that, he was mad at Thomas Massie because of the big, beautiful bill. Look at the people who Donald Trump has waged war on, who were once his allies. Marjorie Taylor Greene, Tucker Carlson, Megyn Kelly, Alex Jones. All of these people had no problem with the big, beautiful bill. They all have one thing in common. They're infuriated in general about U.S. largesse going to Israel, and anger in particular that Donald Trump with Benjamin Netanyahu started the war in Iran. That is what gets you on Trump's angry list. If you can criticize him for his subservience to Israel and for his and opposing the war in Iran, and that's what all of those people that are now on his list of the evil people that he wants to expel from MAGA have in common. It's not the big, beautiful bill. It's Israel and the Iran war. And if we're being honest, that is the only conclusion possible.
Will, what's your response to that?
That's just not true, Glenn.
Except,
Come on, that's fair.
can I respond to this just quickly?
Sure.
Trump wanted Massey out before he ever bombed Iran the first time. In June of 2025, James Blair, who is President Trump's top advisor, posted on Twitter, "I hope you enjoy your final term in Congress." There may be multiple reasons why Massey lost. The reason Trump wanted him out
That was when they bombed Iran. That was when they bombed Iran, Clay, in June of 2025.
It was before they bombed Iran. They wanted him out over the big, beautiful bill. They said, "You're gone." Israel was not even an issue.
Like I said, it wasn't the big, beautiful bill. It was literally the Epstein files. And then, yeah, of course, like, I mean, the Iran war didn't really help, but nah, it was mostly the Epstein files. Let's not sit here and play stupid as if that wasn't really the main reason they wanted him gone. Like, of course, the disagreements over the big, beautiful bill may have started it, but let's be real. He did vote for it at the end of the day, and Trump did get his big, beautiful bill. But the problem is now when it came to the Epstein files, ever since then, that's when they've been talking about, oh yeah, we got to primary Thomas Massey. And the thing is, he don't want to admit that. He don't want to admit that the only reason they try to primary the man is because his anti-Israel stance or his anti-funding of Israel's stance, and the fact that he pushed for the Epstein Transparency Act. Those are the two reasons. But that don't sound good to the American people, so they got to push it like he's against Trump.
The point in time in 2025 when Trump said, "You're out." And so he does not like
I
Thomas
wouldn't say against Trump, but against MAGA values, against America First values.
That was when the Israel attacked Iran. That was a 12-day war.
Liked him for years. Look, I like Massey. The truth of the matter is Kentucky 4th Congressional District members, the voters, they like Trump more than they like Massey. And you can try to make as many different stories about this as you want. But ultimately, the people of Kentucky's 4th want somebody who is going to support Trump 100% of the time. 90% is not enough from that district. And as a result, Trump is more popular and Massey lost. Now, if Massey has great arguments, I'd encourage him to run for president in 2028. Maybe the nation will respond better to his arguments. I love the marketplace of ideas. His career as a Kentucky politician, I think, is over.
It's just so funny when conservatives lose races, it's because of George Soros money and because the media is all aligned against them and all these institutions are against them.
And that's why I'm pissed off, because it's like y'all did the same thing that the Democrats did. When the Democrats wanted somebody gone, they called their homeboy Soros and he put in those millions of dollars. When the Republicans want somebody gone, and the thing is, here's the thing, we criticize the Democrats for their use of George Soros, but we go and do the same thing with Muriel Adelson. And then we want MAGA to go and look the other way like it didn't happen in front of our eyes. Okay, that's what I'm saying. This is why I say MAGA is low-key selling out. Actually, they have sold out. The fact that they've allowed a donor to do this in their face with no criticism whatsoever kind of shows that, yeah, MAGA is sold out to the donors along with Trump.
When a conservative gets the way they want in an election, like Thomas Massey defeat, we go to 3rd grade civics class, and it's like a Jimmy Stewart movie. Oh, the citizens of Kentucky listened to both sides, and they evaluated who they like best. Every president commands a cult of personality. I watch Democrats start cheering.
Your argument is that the people of Kentucky's 4th who voted for 10 points for Gallrein, which is really just an endorsement of Trump, aren't smart enough to vote in their own interest and made a poor choice.
My argument is that as conservatives constantly argue when they lose elections, a major factor in why people vote, who have full-time jobs, who are taking care of kids, who don't follow the news the way people like us do, who are paid to do it, that ads and all kinds of being bombarded with media stories, all these things affect people's perceptions.
To make the right choice, in your opinion.
No, this is something that conservatives don't just say about people in Kentucky. People like you say this about everyone in the country when you use elections. Oh, the media tricked them.
The people of Kentucky, I think know President Trump pretty well at this point. And I think they want somebody in that district that is going to represent him 100% of the time. They want 100%.
It's really like, I don't even think in a 3rd grade civics class they would descend to this level where they pretend that money in politics is a non-issue, that how many ads come on the air to
literally one of the biggest issues in politics is money, because if one candidate can outspend the other, they can literally sway the public through exposure instead of actually having a real plan, a real idea for their district, city, state, country. That's the problem. when you just allow money to take over and you don't allow these people to speak for themselves, but allow millions and billions of dollars just to run propaganda on the American people about who's bad and who's good.
People of things is not an issue. This is moronic.
Nobody
this is
knew
moronic.
Goldrein. He didn't have a single.
Those ads were about
name
demonizing
recognition, and he's
Massey.
running
Nobody
against
gives a
it in
shit
public.
about. I don't even know Goldrein's name. He said the only thing he will do in Congress is whatever Trump tells him to. This had to do with demonizing Tom
Which is what
Massey
the people
through
of Kentucky
pro-Israel
support
money.
You know, I have a final question.
You agree with
listen,
me?
guys, we're running out of time. I have a final question, which is that Donald Trump openly admitted he asked for a warm body that could beat Massey. And my question for you, Clay, is do you think that if it had been a cold body, literally a dead, cold body, could it have beaten Massey?
Yeah, they brought in the guy older than Massey. That's kind of crazy. Trump said, find me a warm body. So what, they brought somebody older than the guy they brought to beat Massey is probably crazy.
Well, I think Democrats elected a dead man in Pennsylvania recently. So, look, I think that President Trump could have picked any candidate that was a reasonable representative for Kentucky's 4th, and they would have beaten Massey because he's more popular than Massey is, and the people of Kentucky 4 want 100% support for Trump.
Okay.
Trump knew it, and the voters proved it.
We've got to leave it there. I will note, though, that the YouGov latest running poll of most popular politicians in America, of those who are currently still active politicians, Bernie Sanders is way more popular
my man.
than Donald
my
Trump.
man, Mountain Man
Elizabeth
Axis.
Warren is more popular than Donald Trump. Alexandria
I don't mind that at all,
Alexandria
Piers. That is not true.
Ocasio-Cortez is more popular. Zoran
And why aren't they
Mamdani
president?
is more popular than Donald
Yes,
Trump.
that is not true.
So, well, I'm looking
Yes,
at it
he
now.
is.
The YouGov most.
Yes, Zoran is. I mean, think about it. Y'all ran a whole propaganda campaign trying to not get this man elected, trying to go against him, but you end up adding more fuel to his campaign. So, yeah, Zoran Mamdani is pretty popular. Everybody's watching him with a magnifying glass at this point.
Popular politicians
I
in
don't
America
know.
poll.
Most people in America don't know who Elizabeth Warren is. They don't know Mamdani.
Well,
I'm talking about nationwide political candidates.
If you are
that everybody
denouncing the rolling YouGov poll of popularity,
mayor of the financial capital of the world, yeah, people tend to know who he is. Just because of the importance of New York City.
On those grounds,
I'm saying
that is
they
for
have
you to
no
do.
idea. YouGov
I
is
trust
no
election
idea what they're
results.
talking about, Piers.
What do you
Here's the
basically?
thing: I hate Mamdani's politics, but I gotta respect the way he won that election. I gotta respect it, and the fact that he just seemed more authentic than the other candidates.
Your claim on them that Trump is the most popular president. I thought it was polling data. He showed you
Exactly.
polling data.
People
You're like, I
have
don't
to
believe it.
actually
You
know
did
the
say all the
person.
polls show
The vast
that Donald
majority
Trump's
of
the most popular.
Americans don't even know who
you said
Mamdani
that.
is.
So when you said
If-
all the
if you don't
polls,
use polling
when you
data,
said
what's
he's
your
the most
basis?
popular guy polled in America, and then we said, but actually in all the polls he's not, you said, well, the polls are lies. So those things
I'm
can't be
saying,
true.
Piers, just an easy question for you. What percentage of Americans do you think even know Mamdani, would recognize him in a photo? 100% know Trump.
Focus on Bernie. Bernie is more popular than Trump. Everybody knows Bernie Sanders. Focus on Bernie Sanders.
Due to the intense hate of Islam that has taken over, well, parts of it. Well, I ain't gonna lie. All right, damn near all of America. Yeah, trust me, people know who Zoran Mamdani is. Fox was fear mongering on Zoran Mamdani through the entire mayoral election. So trust me, we know who Zoran Mamdani was. He was getting nationwide attention for months, and still is.
He's more popular than Trump.
Not even like.
And why isn't Bernie president? Why can't he even get the Democrat nomination?
You know what? Maybe he will be. That'll be another debate. Guys, I've got to leave it there. Thank you all very much indeed. 3 people were killed in a suspected terror attack at San Diego's biggest mosque on Monday. The 2 teenage suspects were found dead nearby with self-inflicted gunshot wounds. Both are said to be Nazi sympathizers, and the FBI is treating it as a hate crime. Many have been quick to draw a direct line between this attack and rising anti-Muslim rhetoric in public life. Republicans in Congress held a meeting on Sharia law just days earlier. Congressman Andy Ogles recently said that Muslims don't belong in American society, while Congressman Randy Fine said he prefers dogs. And the case for the defense was not helped this week by Laura Loomer, a confidant of the US president, who posted that people who go to the mosque want everyone killed. Well, joining me now.
Which was wild. And I know, I believe I showed you guys that like last night when I was covering the shooting. And I was saying like, yeah, this is what this anti-Muslim rhetoric brings us. And here's the thing. People kept saying this dumbass line of, oh, no, I don't hate Muslims. I hate Islam. And I was just like, bro, how dumb are you guys to use that line? You're trying to hide the fact that you are hateful towards a group of people. You are hateful towards the followers of Islam, which are Muslims. So you can't sit there and say you hate Islam without saying you hate Muslims. Just like I can't sit here and say that I hate Christianity without saying I hate Christians. Like, do you understand the disconnect here? All right, then. But yeah, this is what this anti-Muslim rhetoric is going to get. A bunch of wild ass people who literally want to go out there and attack Muslims. Same thing with the overly anti-Semitic rhetoric, blaming the Jews for every single thing that goes on that's bad in the world. That's going to cause the same thing because it did. So I always do say tone down it on both sides. Like, let's be reasonable here. I know I sit here and joke about it sometimes, but you don't see me sitting here and saying that, oh, no, we need to take them all out. They're just trying to rule the world. No, because I don't believe that of nobody. I don't believe that no group of people is this completely evil. No religious group is completely evil. It's just asinine to think that. And if you're going to sit here and try to debate an all statement like that, I'm going to cook your ass all day. But all right, let's get back to it.
As Mehdi Hassan, founder of S.E.T. Mehdi, welcome back to Uncensored.
Thanks for having me, Piers. I wish it wasn't under these circumstances.
Yeah, well, me too. There's been a lot of debate, obviously, about anti-Jewish rhetoric and the impacts of that, and incidents, awful incidents in the UK and other places about that. Here we have an attack which appears to have been motivated by a hatred of Muslims and Islam. Do you think it's getting the attention it would get?
But to be fair, if I remember, I read the manifesto and they hated everybody. They hated the left, the right, including MAGA. I mean, they hated what? Immigrants. I mean, it didn't really matter. If you wasn't white or Christian, they did not like you. They went off on gays, trannies, blacks. Like, they called, literally calling us like a bioweapon and low IQ and all this wild stuff. So trust me, they hated everybody. I guess Muslims were just their closest victims, which actually kind of crazy because they held more respect for Muslims than blacks, if you actually read the manifesto.
Had it been an attack on Jews, for example?
It's a provocative question, Piers. I expect nothing less from you. I'll get in trouble whatever I say. But look, I think that the attacks on synagogues and mosques that we've seen recently are both horrific. Does one group get more coverage than the other? Yes. I don't want to play that as some kind of, it's not that I'm saying that Jewish victims of hate crime should get less coverage, but clearly Muslims are treated as second-class citizens in this country, not just by Republican right-wing politicians like the ones you named, and I can name many more who have said viciously anti-Muslim things, but by the media, by liberal media, by the Democratic Party, by ordinary Americans. And that's a reality. And I think that's the case in the UK as well, Piers, where we just had this rally against Muslims in London, which I know you've covered on your show. And we haven't seen the political establishment come down on that rally in the way they would if Tommy Robinson was saying things about Jews and Judaism in the way he does about Muslims and Islam. I hope we can agree that unfortunately Islamophobia has been mainstreamed in America and the UK in a way that thankfully anti-Semitism still hasn't, although there has been an alarming rise in anti-Semitism across the political spectrum.
You know what? I believe I heard Bassem Youssef say this, and it's like, yeah, we need to stop using that term Islamophobia. They're just anti-Muslim, period, point blank. It's like they're not afraid of Islam. They're not afraid of Muslims. They just, like, through propaganda, through misinformation, through scripture taken out of context, truly hate Muslims and Islam. They are anti-Muslim or anti-Islam. Trust me, it's not a phobia. It's a true hatred.
On the subject specificity of the mosque and the shooters, you mentioned anti-Muslim. I just want to add here,
it's like
if you look at the alleged
anti-Semitism,
manifestos
true
from
hatred
these
of
two
Jews.
kids, these two teenagers, God help us, that two teenagers carry out this murder, this terrorist attack. If you look at the manifesto, Piers, they're anti-Semitic and Islamophobic. The manifesto has horrific stuff in there about Jews and about Islam as well. So,
but and you know, the funny thing is, they blame Jews for everything. They blame Jews for the reason why blacks are here, why the Muslims are here, why immigrants, why there's corruption in the government. They just blame them like period, point blank. But then they also did go into their other reasons of why they hate other groups as well. So like I said, it was just hatred across the board. Bro even went off on women. He went off on women and called them foys, basically female androids, because they all act the same and there's nothing different about them. I was like, damn, the misogyny was real.
Attack. If you look at the manifesto, Piers, they're anti-Semitic and Islamophobic. The manifesto has horrific stuff in there about Jews and about Islam as well. So Jonathan Friedland and I wrote a joint piece almost a decade ago pointing out that people who tend to be anti-Semitic also tend to be Islamophobic and vice versa. They're two sides of the same
That's
coin.
really interesting. I actually bumped into Jonathan Friedland at the Arsenal game the other night, randomly. I would like to have known that. It's a fascinating part of this. So what does that tell you? That extremism of all kinds eventually kind of meets in terms of a lot of the ideology?
That extreme.
Well, I think with a specific type of extremism, which is white nationalists and Nazis, and this is why people like myself have been very careful. I got attacked recently for being skeptical of, the left getting into bed with MTG and Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens, precisely for the reason that a lot of lefties admire those people now because they're criticizing Israel. And I worry that how much of that is driven by criticism of Israel, how much by anti-Semitism, how much will Muslims be on the receiving end of the hate once, quote unquote, they're done with, another community. And
here's the thing. Let's be real. First off, Tucker and Margie Taylor never expressed the hatred towards Jews. They just only judge Israel, which you agree with, Mehdi. And that's what I'm saying. Is like he kind of has this, I don't know. I feel like this man literally been scarred by the right to the point where he just don't trust anybody that come from that side. And even I'm sitting here like, you know what, bro, you could be a bit more accepting. I mean, let's just be real here. Yeah, both anti-Israel. It's not about them being anti-Jews. And let's be real. Like Tucker Carlson, if anything, you should have the most I guess trust for him since he's been out here defending Islam more than anybody. So no, I feel like the distrust is a bit unwarranted, but I get it. Some people got hurt on the other side to the point where they'll forever distrust that side. I get it.
I just think minority communities need to stick together right now because the far right hate all of us. The people who claim to be white Christian nationalists and who want this country to be a white Christian nation, they don't want any of us here, Jews or Muslims. And it's interesting to read this manifesto, depressing, and see these two kids who were clearly radicalized, red-pilled online. They're kids, for God's sake. They got radicalized online, clearly. They turn up wearing Nazi symbols and SS symbols. And yeah, the manifesto, and I don't know how authenticated it's been, but this is the manifestos that are attributed to them online, suggest that they hated Jews and Muslims.
So is it necessarily then a political issue? You would, as you have done, you said that a lot of the rhetoric that comes from these Republican, hard right conservatives has inflamed the mood. But are those two things consistent? Because obviously, if they're being anti-Semitic,
I think they are consistent. No, I think they are consistent because it's all about what atmosphere you create in this country. And there's no denying the fact that since Donald Trump came on the scene in 2015, we now have an atmosphere in this country that is more hate-filled, with more hate crimes, more political violence.
But there's also, many on that,
more violent, more divisive atmosphere.
Right, but in 2025, there was more violence from the far left than there was from the right for the first time in a long time. And I found it incredibly
disturbing. The crucial statement is,
I found, look, I will come to the right part of this, but
speaking of that shooter, guys, what was it? There was a video dropped from the shooter. Like, bro, it's like the creepiest thing. Like, you could tell this guy complete incel. Like, Joe, check this out. Like, yeah, they pretty much pulled all the videos from this guy's Instagram, and apparently he was like a huge little anime stan. Like, obviously. Like, he did not see the weird dance. Be weird. And he's wearing like the skull mask. Bro's literally a Nazi anime fan. It's wild. So yeah. A little weird, but yeah.
Left, what I found increasingly disturbing to watch is the kind of callous inhumanity that a lot on the left show themselves to have when you look at like the murder of Charlie Kirk, for example, or the healthcare executive. I saw the front page of the New York Post yesterday with these three appalling women, young women, whose brains were so warped. So they just want to be celebrating the cold-blooded murder of a father and husband in the streets of New York. What is going on there?
It's a bit weird.
So let me just say two things about that. One is, I'm glad you said for the first time in many years.
Yeah.
Because the reality is that for decades, and even now, right-wing violence is a huge problem in the United States, and people are in denial about this. Many of your guests have come on and just lied about the fact that political violence is not a right-wing problem. Sebastian Gorka, who runs the counterterrorism strategy for this government, just put out an anti-terrorism strategy Piers, from the Trump administration, which did not mention the far right. It mentioned the left, it mentioned Muslims, it mentioned communists, Antifa doesn't.
I mean, look, but here's the thing, Mehdi. You got to understand that there are radicals on both sides that are both ready to commit violence at a moment's notice. Like, you can't sit there and pretend like they're not on both sides. Like the guy that shot up that girls' school, yeah, he was on the left. This guy, these people who shot up the mosque, well, they didn't really claim anything. They just claimed complete bigotry. So, like I said, it comes from both sides. And I ain't gonna lie, those two kids, they were Christian nationalists. I mean, in their manifesto, they said, what was it? It's the white Christianity and the white race are the best things in the world. So obviously, you see where they align.
Mention the right, which is insane.
Which is crazy how people on the right were trying to, no, this has nothing to do with Christianity. They never claimed Christianity. Well, they did say Christianity is the best religion in the world and white people are the best people in the world. So I'm gonna be real with you. It's pretty safe to put them in that column of Christian nationalists. But then they want to add the eco-fascists, and you might want to, highlight that part.
When the majority of violence in this country in the recent years has come from the right. So that's one point. Number two, in terms of the reactions, I know you're not going to like me saying this, but I think the evidence is with me, is that the people you cite, the people who do celebrate murder or say dumb shit or act callously, are a fringe, Piers. When Charlie Kirk was killed, everyone I saw, mainstream leftists, was not celebrating it. And every single Democrat, from Kamala Harris to Joe Biden to every Chuck Schumer, was condemning it. Right. And when
yeah, but those were like politicians. They can't go out there and do that. The problem is that liberals or the voters was out there dancing to this man's death. And there was hundreds of thousands of videos of liberals dancing to Charlie Kirk's death. And I'm gonna be real with you, on both the left and the right, we both found it is sick and deplorable. And those people who lost their jobs low-key deserve to lose their jobs over that. But let's not sit here and pretend like these people were just not celebrating his death, because they were. And I know what he's trying to say. I think he had an argument where he said, well, oh no, they were just criticizing what he said. Yeah, they were criticizing what he said after he died while dancing. What does that tell you?
Kind of political violence happens, mainstream people on the center left, whether it's in the Labour Party in the UK or the Democratic Party, they were docked. Can I finish my point?
But I'm just challenging that one. I would challenge one.
Oh, yeah, of course not, bro. Yeah, of course. Like, bro, they don't represent Christianity whatsoever. I just wish people applied that same logic to Islam. That's what I wish. I just wish they applied that same logic to Islam, and we would be a lot better off as a country. That's all I got to say. Like, that's it. They don't represent Christianity, but they claim to be Christians. So what? We just, and I remember what people were trying to say on Twitter. They were trying to say, well, on X, they're trying to say, oh, this is a Christian terrorism, which was like wild to hear. But yeah, they're trying to say it's Christian terrorism. And I'm just like, yeah, see, guys, and this is what I was trying to warn Christians about. I was like, you guys are next, right? They're going to start throwing you guys under the bus the same way you're throwing Muslims under the bus, right? And this is only the beginning, and it's only going to get worse. But I mean, at least I warned you.
Thing on that, there were university professors, there were doctors, nurses, teachers. There were people in real positions of authority and responsibility that were quite happy to post videos of themselves celebrating Charlie Kirk's murder.
I'm going to dispute that, Piers. No, I'm going to dispute that. If you really want to get into it, I was there following a lot of this. A lot of the people who were doxxed were not celebrating. They were pointing out that he said horrible things, which is totally legitimate.
No, they were celebrating, bro. I watched all of those videos, even the controversial ones where people somewhat had a case. The problem was, after this man's death, they're playing voiceovers of what he said that was bad, and then pretty much saying that, oh, well, I'm actually happy that he's gone, or dancing in the background to stuff that he said that they disagreed with. I'm sorry, bro. Oh, and then here's the thing. I'm gonna be real with you. Isn't it a bit distasteful to just sit there and, after a man got shot in the neck, you're sitting and talk about, well, I didn't agree with none of the things he said. So is this really a bad thing? Yeah, I'm sorry, but like that's what people were saying. So Mehdi, please don't sit there and pretend like people were not sitting there celebrating his death. And like I said, he died. They make a video criticizing what he says while dancing. What do you think they're doing?
They were not celebrating his death. That was a right-wing propaganda line. But we don't have time to get into each individual case. Can I make my broader point, which is when a mosque is attacked in the US, Republican politicians are either silent, I pointed this out, that Ted Cruz did not condemn it until I called him out on it. Multiple Republicans have still not condemned. Elise Stefanik has not condemned it. She's busy condemning some Democratic candidate in Texas who said something awful. They have not condemned a terrorist attack in the United States. That's one point. You can't find Democrats who do the same when there's a synagogue attack or anything equivalent. And then, of course, there's no one on the Democratic side who's talking like Laura Loomer. There just isn't.
True.
There's only one person. Imagine, Piers, I said this.
Bro, I literally said that, bro. I've said this so many times. Laura Loomer is the stain on the Republican Party. She is a stain on the right, okay, my man? And the reason why she is a stain on the right is because of her open bigotry. And it just makes all of us look bad. And the fact that she has Trump's ear and she's one of the main MAGA influencers, it makes all of us look bad just claiming to be MAGA, that we're even sharing a spot, sharing an ideology space with this lady. She makes all of us look bad. And I remember I said this before Trump got into this war and all that. Like, if I ever leave, it would be because either Laura Loomer or Trump gets into war with Iran. And he did both. So I literally got to like dip out the door at this point. It is what it is.
On Twitter, imagine if an advisor to Joe Biden, a close friend and ally of Biden, when Biden was president, after a synagogue was attacked, had said the synagogue was evil and that all Jews should be removed from the U.S. It would have been the end of the Biden presidency. Literally. You would have been on a roll loop for 7
And it's a lack of consistency as well. It's like, so you guys would be absolutely outraged, and so would I, if somebody said, yo, we just need to get rid of all Jews and all this good stuff. They're staying on society. Judaism is not compatible with the West. Like, yeah, if they said all that about Judaism, you'd be canceled, right? And I'm gonna be real for you, I wouldn't agree with it, but I'd understand why you got canceled. So why isn't there the same consistency with Islam? And then here's the thing, and then here's also the inconsistency. So I'm like, all right, well, how is Judaism more compatible if we're talking about Christian values when they don't believe that Jesus is the Messiah or coming back or the Son of God? None of that. At least the Muslims, they will agree with you that, all right, yeah, he's the Messiah. We're not sure about this whole Son of God stuff. I could work with people like that, but not like recognition at all. I could still work with them, but not theologically. I can't. Theologically, I cannot work with them. But for some reason, we got Judeo-Christian values. Okay, I mean, all right. I mean, we don't believe the same creator, or we don't believe the same thing about who's God and all that good stuff. But okay.
Days straight. We know this, and yet Republicans get away with this stuff. You mentioned Andy Ogles. It's not just Andy Ogles. It's Representative Brandon Gill, who said Islamic immigration is killing us. Chip Roy, Representative Chip Roy of Texas, who said no more Muslims. He said in March in a tweet. You have, of course, Randy Fine, who you've had on this show, who said mainstream Islam, not Islamism, not jihadism. Mainstream Islam is an evil death cult, he said.
Yeah, that's what killed me about him. So I was like, all right, bro, you can sit there and say jihadist is a death cult, great. ISIS, death cult. You could just sit there and call Hezbollah and Hamas a monster death cult. And I'll sit there and I'll agree with you, like, yeah, low-key, they're wilding. But when you say mainstream Islam, you're claiming that 2 billion people in this world is a death cult, that they just need to be like pushed out of the United States or pushed off this earth. Yeah, it's kind of crazy how people like that have a spot in Congress. And remember, this is the same guy that posted under a dead picture of a dead Palestinian baby and said, oh, thanks, send me more. Like, you got to remember, bro, some of these people are sick, but yet they are on the right and they have support. Like, it's sick. And I always do say this, like I said, this anti-Muslim thing is not going to work out for nobody. And it's only going to push. Here's the thing, you know what's so crazy? Muslims are actually pretty conservative. They are. But due to the hatred that they get on the right, they always lean left as a way to have political protection from the bigotry, sadly, is coming from the right towards them. If we'd actually let go of that, we would actually have the Muslims on our side because, bro, their whole culture is like conservatism. Do you not see what they're doing out there in their own country? They got women in burqas, bro. They stay in the kitchen, staying in the kitchen. Like, they're the most conservative people on earth, ironically.
If you're telling me that doesn't contribute to an atmosphere where people might want to pick up weapons and attack Muslims and mosques, I don't know what to say to you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I had this debate with Jonathan Conricus yesterday, the former IDF spokesman, because
I saw it.
At the Tommy Robinson march, there were speakers brazenly talking about removing Islam from all aspects of politics and authority in the UK. They weren't saying Islamists or extremists or anything. They were just based, and of course, you know, Islam is followed by Muslims. They were basically just saying, get the Muslims out. And Jonathan was trying to defend this and happy to say he attended the march and, wasn't fazed by what he heard. And I was like, but imagine if it had been about Jews there. Imagine if they said we're going to get all the Jews out of Parliament, all the Jews out of local level politics in the UK. All hell would have broken loose. Now, conversely,
by the way, can I just add to that, Piers? I'm glad you pushed Jonathan Conricus on that. And you know what he said to you in response? He said, "Oh, it wasn't about Muslims; it was about Islam," which is this kind of very lazy distinction.
Islamism,
because it's interesting that in the shooters. Well, no, he tried to disregard the fact that the speaker who you referenced said Islam and not Muslims, as if that's some kind of get out. I would point to the Shooters Manifesto in San Diego, where the shooter specifically says, Piers, in the manifesto, I don't hate Muslims, I hate Islam. It's the same get out that even mass murderers are using.
I swear to God, it's the most dumbest thing ever. It's like, I don't hate Muslim, I hate Islam. It's like, so what do Muslims follow? Islam, and it's their life. So you're pretty much saying that you hate their life because their life is dedicated to what? Islam. Just like if I said I hate Christianity, well, you dedicate your life to Christianity, your soul, your afterlife. And if I say that I hate that, that means I'm saying I'm hating everything almost about you. So isn't that kind of crazy how people could sit there in front of you and sit there and say, oh, I don't hate Muslims, I hate Islam, and people actually eat that up like, no, they're not a hateful person. No, what you mean? They don't hate Muslims, they hate Islam. Like, bro, really? Does that really like sound right in your head? Like, are you really that propagandized to really believe that? Now, I really want to know, does anybody even in this chat even think that that sounds right?
Yeah, because my point is always I hate extremists. I don't care if they're Muslim extremists or Christian extremists.
So do I.
Or any extreme, or Jewish extremists. There are, some of the activities we're seeing on the West Bank right now are the worst kind of extremist terrorism. Right?
The Israeli finance minister said yesterday he's going to ethically cleanse an entire Palestinian town.
Yeah, I saw it. You know my view of Ben Gvir and Smotrich. I think they're genuinely evil people. When someone is given, as Ben Gvir was recently, a 50th birthday present from his own wife, which has a noose on a cake, right? You're dealing with psychopathic mentality. And I don't care who doesn't want to hear that. You are. And if it was the other side, if you were seeing Hamas commanders do that, people would say, look at them, they're psychopaths. So I think you've got to be intellectually honest about this. Talking of which, we did a bit of research into hate crimes targeting people for their religious beliefs. In 2025, the FBI said that nearly 70% of US religion-based hate crimes targeted Jews. So, and in October 2023, FBI Director Christopher Wray in the Biden administration warned the US was reaching historic levels of anti-Semitism. So although Jews make up only 2.4% of US public, they account for about 60% of all religious-based hate crimes, which was nearly a 10% increase at the time. And in the UK, the Home Office said hate crimes against Muslims are almost twice as likely to result in prosecution than those against Jews. So there's a lot of statistics here, which when you take them together, would suggest that there is more hate crime against Jews than there is against Muslims. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I'm not trying to play a victim Olympics here. I think there are far too many hate crimes across the board. I'm on the left, Piers. I don't like hate crimes in general. I'm worried about the rise of the far right, and I'm worried about hatred and bigotry. I'm not happy that Donald Trump pardoned a guy who wore a Camp Auschwitz T-shirt to January the 6th. And now that guy might be able to get millions of dollars of tax money from a slush fund that Donald Trump just created. So I'm against pardoning anti-Semitic rioters. I'm against being soft on anti-Semitic criminals. I don't think two things are inconsistent, though, Piers, which is to say, number one, there's a lot of anti-Semitic hate crimes out there, right? I've written about them. There were two horrific synagogue attacks under Donald Trump's first presidency, if you remember, by far-right activists, not by far-left activists. But at the same time, we should also acknowledge, gladly, that at least we take anti-Semitism seriously as a society, as a media, as a country. No one would say that the governments of the countries are not taking it seriously. Donald Trump has set up multiple anti-Semitism investigations, task forces. Republicans in Congress have held, I think, a dozen hearings on anti-Semitism. Do you know how many they've held on Islamophobia? None. Not a single specific hearing on Islamophobia. So it's not about who's prosecuted more, who's attacked more. We agree that many communities are taking the brunt of it. Jews, the oldest hatred, are facing lots of anti-Semitism. What Muslims are upset about is that anti-Muslim hatred is mainstreamed and normalized in this country in a way that anti-Semitism or anti-black racism or homophobia is not mainstreamed.
Well, also, that's what
people are upset about.
Yeah, there's also a kind of
No, that's the scary part. And that's why I don't like this whole anti-Muslim thing, because they're going to start going down the line with people. It's going to turn into Christians. It's going to turn into blacks. It's going to turn into whatever the next race want to knock down next until they're the last one standing in America. Like, that's the problem with the anti-Muslim rhetoric. And then you're right. It is widely accepted to be anti-Muslim, say the most hateful things against them. But if you turn that around and said that about black people, you're cooked. You turn around and say that about Jews, you're cooked. If you turn around and say about Muslims or white people, I ain't gonna lie, it's all good though for some reason. It's kind of ironic how, you could pick on Muslims and white people all you want, get as vicious as you want with them, and nobody's really gonna say anything to you.
Weird campaign.
Outside of that, though, you tripping.
And I think to dispute that Islamophobia even exists as a thing. Right, which I haven't heard anybody argue about anti-Semitism or racism or any of the other things.
No.
It's almost like
They say
there are
say
2 billion, up to 2 billion Muslims on planet Earth. Islamophobia is a thing. I see it all the time on social media where people don't object to parts of the Islam faith or teachings. They hate Muslims and they make no bones of it. That is Islamophobia. And, and my argument with someone like Tommy Robinson, who says, well, I've got Muslim friends and so on, but he only ever posts on his social media feed crimes that are committed largely by Muslims. That's his thing. So he's telling millions of people all the time that there's just this big problem with Muslims committing despicable crimes. And yet when I have people on who want to support him, I say, yeah, but the vast majority of crime in the UK, for example, including sex crimes against women, is perpetrated by white men. Statistically, it's just
and they'll hit you with the per capita. I mean, all right, cool. What's the per capita then? Because they say per capita, and it's like they say that with no statistics behind them to back it up. Well, it's the Pakistani Muslims. They're the ones that doing all the raping and all this good stuff. I'm like, no, there are cases of Pakistani Muslims doing that and doing grape gangs, but not all of them, and it's not overwhelmingly them. But people will sit there and hit you with per capita as if they have the statistic to back that up.
Fact. And then they get into, percentages and pro rata and all that kind of thing. And it's not an illegitimate. These aren't illegitimate things to point out.
There's a bigger issue even.
But it's exaggerated for a reason.
You and I have debated the rape issue. You and I have debated the rape issue. And one thing I would say, without wanting to relitigate all of that, is what's even worse than the whole argument about are you overrepresented, underrepresented, is even when we talk about rape gangs, we say Islamic rape gangs, Pakistani Muslims. Which other crime do we define by religion? Do you imagine if I came on this show and I said Bernie Madoff, the Jewish financier who ripped people off during the financial crisis, you would say that's anti-Semitic, legitimately so. We don't, we never define crimes by religion except when it's a Muslim.
Well, it's true, because if I ask Tommy Robinson,
the Muslim terrorist.
Yeah, we never define terrorism by religion, or we never call out terrorism until it's a Muslim. Like, we never call out political violence or see it as terrorism until it's a Muslim. So, or I'm gonna say this: all resistance against, I would say this: all resistance that Muslims take against the American empire or American influence, they're now seen as terrorists. You know why they always say one freedom fighter, another man's terrorist, and another man's freedom fighter. Yeah, that's why they say that. Because some of these countries, they see Hamas, Hezbollah, and as freedom fighters. Now we don't see them that way, trust me, because they've taken Hezbollah has taken American lives. But they see them that way. Why? Because, Hezbollah is stopping Israel from taking southern Lebanon, and Hamas is pretty much stopping Israel from destroying the Alexa Mosque, resurrecting the World Temple, and bringing it upon their eschatology, and also keeping them from completely seizing Gaza.
I agree. So if Tommy Robinson came on here, and he won't for reasons that are obvious, because he doesn't want to have to repeat his lies, which got him into prison, because he knows I'd test him and then he'd go back to prison. But if he did, I'd say, look, of all the white male sex crimes against women perpetrated in the UK each year, how many are perpetrated by white Christians? Right? He would have no idea. He wouldn't know. So that's to your point. But you start talking about any crimes perpetrated by Muslims, he'd have all the statistics he could possibly want to have. In other words, he's willfully blind to the fact that there could be any crime committed
Well,
by
he's a
bigot,
Christians. Piers. You're being very polite. He's a bigot. And when you're a bigot, you focus only on one thing. When you're an anti-Semitic bigot, you focus on Jews. When you're anti-Muslim bigot, you focus on Muslims. By the way, can we just deal with this issue that I hear guests on your show often say, oh, Islamophobia. You can't have a phobia. That's a fear. It's a made-up word, even though we're totally fine saying homophobia. That doesn't mean you literally fear gay people. I mean, it's insane the double standards people contort around.
I like to say homo intolerant. It's like you don't hate them, you just don't tolerate them. So you're homo intolerant.
Language to try and justify their bigotry. People say, well, I'm not against Muslims, I'm against Islam, the religion. Yet people I deal with, they never want to debate the prophethood of Muhammad with me. They never want to debate theology with me. They want to debate, as you say, gangs in England or suicide bombings in the Middle East. It's never actually about Islamic theology. Let's just be clear. This is racism.
Because they can't debate Islamic theology because they're taking scripture out of context. That's why. It's like, bro, Christian debating an atheist who's done nothing but take biblical scripture out of context. There really is no debating that guy. They're literally just trying to paint your religion as bad. And that's literally what it is, debating these guys who hate Muslims. They literally come in bad faith. They come with quoted scripture that's taken completely out of context. And then they completely take out of context the history of Islam. Like, what was it? Tariq or Tarek or whatever they want to call it. Where they say, oh, well, Muslims can lie to you. No, they can't. That was a law built when they were going around killing Muslims for not converting. So they said that, you know what, you can lie to save your life if need be. And you guys disingenuously spin it and saying, oh, no, that's permission for them to lie. Oh, they can always lie. It's like, no, you're wrong. And you've completely like taken that out of its historical context.
And then they say, well, it's not racism because Islam's not a race, it's a religion, even though they pick on people who look visibly Muslim. Did you know, Piers, the first person to be killed in the United States of America after 9/11 in an anti-Muslim hate crime was not Muslim. It was a Sikh man in Arizona who was wearing a turban, had a beard. And so the racist man thought he was a Muslim and killed him, Balbir Singh Sodhi. Did you know that the other day in the UK, a man raped a Sikh woman? And as he raped her, he attacked her for being a Muslim. The headlines in the British media just mentioned that she was a Sikh woman, didn't mention that it was an anti-Muslim motivated hate crime by an idiotic bigot who thought she was a Muslim woman, the poor woman.
Are you concerned about the fact that there are apparently approaching 100 unofficial, because they're not legal in the UK, but Sharia courts operating in the UK? Does that concern you?
No.
Hey, man, shout out to my man, Mountain Man Axes. He sent the flow state for 200 joules. Appreciate the support, my man. Oh, guys, make sure to like the video if you haven't already and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.
Because number one, I don't know about those numbers. In the past, when I looked into this subject myself, A, the numbers are exaggerated. B, a lot of what these Sharia courts do is personal civil stuff, which is not criminal, does no weight of law. It's a way for married couples to also get an Islamic divorce, not just a civil divorce. Yeah. And by the way, again,
and that's what kills me. It's like, it's like, churches kind of do the same thing. They kind of hold court over the community in a way when it comes to civil issues, especially. They do the same thing in Christian communities, by the way. But for some reason, when they do it in Islamic communities, you're acting like they're creating new laws in like districts or cities and stuff. And that's not true. They're handling their domestic disputes.
Not wanting to play the double standard game, but I can't help it here. I mean, I find it astonishing that a lot of right-wing Jewish people who hate Muslims now because of Israel are going on about Sharia courts and ignoring the fact, Melanie Phillips comes to mind. The Beth Din, the Jewish community in the UK has religious courts called the Beth Din. If you're going to ban all religious courts, fine with me, but just be consistent.
Not true.
What about the issue of mass migration generally? I mean, it's indisputable, for example, that we now have millions more Muslims who've come into the country than were here 30 years ago, right, for example. And obviously then the Muslim population in the UK will grow exponentially as a consequence of that. And, I'm not going to debate the fact that successive governments, left and right, have completely had a sort of fiasco series of policies about immigration generally, I think, which has created a lot of the tension and problems in the country, which then get exaggerated and used for political reasons. But in terms of mass migration, many people I speak to, very smart people, who don't really have a horse in the race, right? Who are just trying to look at this dispassionately, say that this issue of mass migration and the issue of millions of Muslims, for example, along with other groups of people, that inevitably that will have an impact on any society that they go to. Do you accept that argument? I mean, if the argument being, if you suddenly put 5 million Christians into Saudi Arabia, for example, it would obviously have an impact on the society, on the country, on the way it operated. It would probably lead to a lot of...
like it or not, Saudi Arabia going to see a whole bunch of churches starting to erect, or a whole bunch of secret churches that's going to be discovered. So, you bring a group of any race or religion by the millions into a country, you're going to change some stuff around.
Fear and resentment from
things are going to change.
Muslims there and so on. Do you understand that argument? Do you accept it? Do you think there are reasons to be sensible about this?
I understand it. I don't accept the premise, because 5 million Muslims did not just land in the West. This happened, immigration happened over time. And of course, you're not counting the fact that many of the millions of Muslims who live in the West, like myself, are born and raised in the West. Many are second, third, fourth generation now. I have friends who are grandparents who were born in the UK. Their grandkids are now born in the UK or the US. So this idea of making it about migration is kind of absurd. You look at you look at the mayor of London, who attracts so much hate and attention, partly because of your old pal Donald Trump, who's targeted him, and now Tommy Robinson and others, and Elon Musk. Sadiq Khan is born in London, raised in London, is the mayor of London, 3-term mayor of London. That's something to be proud of. That is integration and immigration, and at its best. And I can list a whole host of British Muslim politicians who have done the same. You look at Hamza Yusuf, who was First Minister of Scotland, Muslim, born and raised there. You look here in the US, Rashida Tlaib, member of Congress, Muslim, born and raised, representing the state where she was born and raised. So I think, this idea that it's just about migrants, first of all, we should put to bed. And number two, you look at someone like Germany that did take in 1 million Syrians. Angela Merkel, I was no fan of Angela Merkel, but that was a big, bold move that may have, eventually cost her political career and legacy. But there are many people in Germany who would argue that many of those Syrians were well integrated. Now, people on the German right say, there was an increase in crime and this and that. There's a big debate about those statistics and who is perpetrating those crimes. Is it newcomers? Is it single young men from countries in the last few years? Actually, was the Syrian diaspora actually well integrated? Did Angela Merkel do a good job? But, the idea that in the UK or the US there's been some flooding of Muslims. I mean, Piers, we're talking about, look at Texas, for example. There is a moral panic, a hysteria in Texas about Muslims taking over the state. Muslims make up a tiny percent, less than 5% of the.
It was tripping because they were trying to make an Islamic center, and they lost their ish about that. And like I said, though, and they were literally trying to create their own little city in Texas, like what the Jews did in New Jersey and in New York. The Muslims were trying to do the same thing in Texas. And here's the thing, I can't get mad at them for that if we allow, like I said, if we allow the Jews to do it in New York and in New Jersey, we allow the Chinese to do it in Canal Street in New York. I mean, we allow Hispanics to do it in every border state, where they cut out their own part, and it's like a little mini part of their country. Like, bro, we got Little Italy, Little Mexico, bro, we got a state called New Mexico. Like, come on now. So this is my point here, is that if you're gonna get mad about them cutting their own little part of America out for themselves, then you got to get mad at the other groups too. And I gotta stay consistent, and I'm not doing that. I'm gonna be real with you. Like I said, for me to get mad at the Muslims for doing that, then I gotta get mad at the rest of them for doing that, especially the Indians, like I said, the Chinese, the Jews, all of them. And I'm just going to go ahead and let it go. I'm going to be real with you. Unless we just take care of all of them all together, we're just about to dismantle all of their communities, which we're not going to do. So you might as well get over it if you're not going to be consistent about it.
State of Texas is Muslim. Meanwhile, Republican politicians are running on, we must ban Sharia law, we must stop Muslim mosques. How am I supposed to take that seriously? That is sheer fear-mongering, hysteria-mongering. That is a creation of a moral panic around a minority community that is already demonized, already facing attacks on its mosques. And I think the key point is to push back against the lies that surround a lot of this debate.
Well, one of the reasons, like a lot of the people that go on these marches with Tommy Robinson, look, some of them are absolute Neanderthal thugs. Of course they are. You can see it when they post stuff. But there are other people there for perfectly well-intentioned reasons who feel like they're losing the identity of their country. They would have grown up in families believing that England, for example, was predominantly a white Christian country, and they feel it's changed very rapidly, and that there's a possibility, the way things are going, that in 50 years' time it could be a Muslim majority country, and that you would lose the identity and the fabric. So this is a genuine concern that they have, right?
I mean, here's the thing. That's crazy.
Would that be a concern to you?
You know, like how white people fearmonger on that, and I'm just like, a Muslim takeover doesn't require, race mixing or anything like that. That's more of like an ideology change. So it is kind of crazy. They're trying to eliminate white men and all this crazy stuff by Muslim takeover. Whoa, bro. I mean, if you said Arab takeover, then all right, cool. That's where you can be concerned about your race, but you can't be concerned about your race with a Muslim takeover when that's an ideology, not a race. So what, you're saying that everybody's going to start being converted to Islam? And I ain't gonna lie, I mean, the way y'all fear-mongering on Islam right now, I mean, it might make people curious. They might actually go look into it, and they might F around and become a Muslim. And I mean, if you don't want that, you might want to stop fear-mongering. It's like when your parents told you to stay away from acid or weed, and then what did you do? Your ass went and did. Okay.
Should England be ever a majority Muslim country?
Not through some conspiracy, but last time I checked, it's a free country. So it depends what happens to it's. America obviously is different. There is no established church. It's a very, very secular country with a separation of church and faith. Despite what the right say, the founders did not build this country as a Christian country. Yep. Anyone can be American anytime.
Thank you. And I mean, a lot of people don't understand that. Like, bro, some of the founders actually had a disdain for Christianity, believe it or not, but they still believed in freedom of religion. So they didn't make it a law to say, oh, no Christianity or anything like that. Yes, there were founders who did not like Christianity, and some of them were like straight out deists. So it's kind of crazy how we sit here and say, oh, this is a Christian country, but no, not really. Freedom of speech is not a Christian value. Remember, our forefathers left the Christian country who didn't believe in freedom of speech. Freedom of speech was not really a thing in these Christian kingdoms as well. So freedom of speech was only a thing once Christians and deists and other religions came here. So freedom of speech in America is an American value, not a Christian value, an American one. Because y'all had multiple chances throughout history to make it a thing, and y'all didn't.
One of the great virtues, and I have become an American myself. The UK, obviously, you could argue established religion, Church of England, etc.
Yeah.
And by the way, when you poll people in the UK, Piers, do you know who supports the monarchy and the Church of England more than above average? Muslims do.
Yeah, I know.
Muslims like the idea of established religion. It gives them it gives their faith great protections, and a lot of Muslims are fans of Charles, who's been a great defender of faiths, as he famously put it. But on the numbers, I just want to go back to your point about the concern. People do. I'm not saying that everyone on the march is some crazy racist thug, but they have all been misinformed and brainwashed and propagandized too. You look at the interviews that were done with some of these marchers. They believe crazy numbers. They believe that Muslim populations are bigger than they are. They believe that immigrants are getting special treatment that they're not getting.
I know if you ask somebody like, all right, you're so fearful of Muslims, like why? How much are there? They'll say too many. Or they'll give you some exorbitant number, like, bro, there's probably like 50 million Muslims here. I'm like, no, bro, there's only 5 million Muslims in America, and you're over here crying about a Muslim takeover when there's over 100 million Christians. Yeah, bro, I don't think, even if they did, I don't think they want that smoke. They're a bit too outnumbered. And then they say, well, wait till they become the majority. I'm sorry, but how are they going to become the majority starting off from 5 when we're at 100 million? And remember, then, if that's the case, then you're pretty much going to say that a lot of people are going to convert to Islam. And trust me, 5 million people is not going to make 50 million or 100 million people convert to Islam unless they're winning a theological debate or something.
I think we have to deal with, Piers, with our industry. The media has played a huge role, right-wing newspapers in particular, but the media as a whole, in lying to people about immigration, in lying to people about the numbers, in demonizing immigrant crimes. And you mentioned about people saying, well, they're used to a white Christian country. Have you ever noticed, Piers, that the places the far right often do best are places with no immigrants in them? Why is that? Isn't it interesting that people in areas where there aren't many immigrants, where there hasn't been much demographic change, they're the most hostile to immigration because they see on TV and in their papers, this is happening in London or Birmingham. And in London and Birmingham, people are fine about it. You live in London, people get along great in cities where there are migrants. So I find the polling shows, and it's shown this for years in the UK, that the most anti-immigrant...
Dog, I'm a conservative in Columbus, Ohio. Like, I live in one of the most liberal cities in Ohio. So trust me, I kind of understand what he's talking about. It's like, yeah, some of these people have never even been around never been in a diverse atmosphere to where you're around multiple cultures. You go outside, you already seen like, bro, 6 different people or 6 different races. Like I go outside, I'm gonna see African, I'm gonna see an Asian, I'm gonna see a white person, I'm gonna see different cultures. I'm gonna see Somali woman, I'm gonna see a Nigerian guy, I'm gonna see an Asian guy, I'm gonna see an Indian man eventually. If I go to the corner store, it's like I'm gonna see every race. I just live in a very diverse area. And I think maybe that's why I can be conservative and far right without being racist, because I kind of been around diversity my entire life. And I've seen the negatives and the positives of diversity. I've seen how it can make people more understanding, but then it can also lead to suicidal empathy. But I can also see how it can somewhat enrich a culture, but then it can somewhat dilute a culture. So trust me, I've seen both sides of it, and both people have really good arguments, especially the whole dilution of American culture. But we'll get into that later. That's
people in the UK tend to live in places where there are very few immigrants, and therefore most of their information about migrants and immigration is coming from the media.
I actually, one of the things I think conversations like the ones that you and I have regularly are really important for the public to be able to listen to sensible conversation about it. Because one of the problems with the Tommy Robinson phenomenon, other than he goes to America and just lies to his back teeth about everything, including himself, and spells this sort of doom-laden apocalyptic view of England being run over by Muslims and so on, which is absurd. But of course,
yeah, if you ask everybody here in America, well, they believe that, UK, England has truly been taken over by Muslims. Like that, just because, what was it, London's mayor is a Muslim, so they think that it's been a Muslim takeover. Just like they think that there's a Muslim takeover in New York City because of Mandani. Yeah, crazy. But all right, though, next video, let's go ahead and get into it. We're going to get into Israeli media. This is going to be fun because Israeli media interviewed Tucker Carlson. So this is going to be a good one, guys. Let me start here first. Get myself to take a quick restroom break. And make sure to smash that like button, guys. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Any question, comment, jokes, or disagreements, you feel free to super chat it in. I'll be happy to engage with it and post it on screen. All right, let's get right into it. Quick little 4-minute break to watch this real quick, guys. Check this little clip out. If I still got it.
Hey, President Trump, how are those mass deportations going?
They said, you got to lighten up on this. We have a lot of heart for people. They came in illegally, but they're good people, and they're working now on farms.
I have proposed, and President Trump has concurred, that this surge operation conclude.
Oh. Well, surely no new wars in the Middle East like you've campaigned on for years, right?
Our president will start a war with Iran because he has absolutely no ability to negotiate. We should have never gone into the Middle East. We should have never gone into the Middle East. Under my leadership, we will turn the page forever on those foolish, stupid days. They said, he will start a war. I'm not going to start a war. I'm going to stop wars. You're not going to have a war with me, and you're not going to have a third world war with me. The United States military began major combat operations.
Embarked on it. And so
My bad, guys. My bad. What I was pretty much saying was, well, due to the history of Israel, yeah, you guys are a bit more violent than Iran. Iran hasn't gotten into a war with, well, hasn't attacked none of its neighbors. If anything, Iran's neighbors, a neighbor of Iran attacked them. And then we funded that neighbor, aka Saddam, to attack them. And let's be real, Israel has started a war with Lebanon, aka and that's what created Hezbollah. And of course, they're in it with Hamas as well in Gaza. And let's just be real. I mean, like, come on now. They are a bit more violent because they've broken multiple ceasefires with Hezbollah, and they're breaking the ceasefire with Hamas. And let's be real, both the times in Iran, both the times that Israel got into it with Iran, they attacked them first. So isn't that kind of crazy how you sitting there like, how dare you say that Israel more violent than Iran? Well, how dare Israel act more violent than Iran? Like, bro, y'all attacked all y'all neighbors. Iran has not attacked one. You guys have dragged yourselves into multiple conflicts. Iran hasn't did that not one time. So yes, you guys are a bit more violent. A bit. Tom, you know the UAE has a terrorist proxy in like Sudan. That's what's causing Sudan's, like all that horrific stuff that's coming out of Sudan. Yeah, that's because of UAE's proxy terrorist group. Oh, and why Yemen is a complete battleground? That's because UAE has a terrorist group in there, and so does Saudi Arabia, and of course so does Iran. Oh yeah, and we supported multiple terrorist groups throughout our history. So proxy wise as well, and we did it recently, bro. We put the head of Al Qaeda at the in charge of Syria. Like, doesn't that prove that we were supporting a terrorist group right there? Look, the pager operation was badass. It was low key pretty cool. The Mossad was pretty awesome for that. The problem is you gave a golden pager to the president, and it was a bit like distasteful. It's like, yeah, you guys killed people during this operation. Not like we used the pager for a major successful mission. You guys used pagers to kill people, and you took the life of a little girl while doing it. So I wouldn't, if I was Trump, I would be no way I'd accept that gift. Nah, the pager operation was to pretty much destabilize Hezbollah's leadership, because they put they was able to get these pagers in the hands of top Hezbollah officials and leadership. And yeah, they were able to blow them up simultaneously, taking out, bro, basically the entire Hezbollah leadership. And because they was able to do that, they was able to fly into Syria and pretty much overthrow Assad as well. So it was all one big plan to come at Syria, but they had to take care of Hezbollah and their leadership, because they knew Hezbollah was going to get involved in Syria if they struck without making sure that Hezbollah's leadership was gone and they can't carry out no strikes. And you pretty much hear what I'm saying. Yeah, take out Hezbollah so they can go ahead and die. You know what? That's a good point. And this would be on my rebuttal. I would have to be like, well, here's the problem. You guys funded Hamas over the Palestinian Authority because you wanted to destabilize the Gaza, or the governing of the Palestinians. Like, so you guys put in an extremist group, Hamas, and you funded them. Bibi Netanyahu, yes, is recorded funding Hamas at the tune of $1 billion. What you think they did with that? Well, most of it most likely went to October 7th. I'll tell you that. And then also Hezbollah, they've created Hezbollah through their constant invasion of southern Lebanon. That's why Hezbollah was created. So let's not sit here and pretend like you guys didn't bring this upon yourselves. If you just be peaceful actors in the Middle East, none of this would happen to you guys. But you've constantly tried to take all of the land of the Palestinians, and you're constantly trying to take the Lebanese land as well. You can have that. You can have that position. But I could just say that, he probably was convinced into starting a war he never wanted to get into. There you go. It doesn't have to be about him being weak. It just has to be about him either being gullible, or he just gullible. Yeah, that's pretty much the best excuse you can give for him, outside of just being dragged along or like dog walked, is that he was just gullible enough to believe what Bibi was telling him. A lot of what was it? Genocide scholars, a group of genocide scholars came together and said Israel's committing a genocide. The ICC says they have a strong case for Israel committing genocide. And here's the problem, though. You know what? If Israel would have just shut the F up and not talk about how enthralled they are with killing Palestinians, then, well, not Israel, but the Bibi Netanyahu regime would just shut the hell up about how thrilled they are about killing Palestinians, then we could call this ethnic cleansing at best. But due to the rhetoric of some of the Israeli leadership, Bibi and the rest of them, just the rhetoric alone with the action can constitute as a genocide. To kind of veer away from, judging Israel for its actions as a country, not the people, is they say, you're being anti-Semitic. Yeah, you're actually going against Jewish people. What do? You hate them or something? I'm like, no. I hate what the country's doing. Don't mean I hate what Jewish people are doing. Just like I don't like what the Iranian regime does with their authority. Doesn't mean I hate the Iranian people. And that was Tucker Carlson on Israeli media. Shout out Tucker Carlson for showing up.
This is Iran issues the news. The U.S.-Iran standoff putting the Mideast on edge. The Israeli military remains on high alert. This is Iran issues a new threat to the United States, saying that renewed fighting would trigger a wider war extending beyond the Middle East.
So, Danny, you've got this U.S. blockade pushing Iran's economy to its breaking point. That blockade is working.
No, it's not working. Even the CIA said it's not working. And if you look at a map, you'll see why it's not working.
The White House keeping up the pressure as they try to work out a deal, but there are other options that still are on the table.
They come to the table, they're begging to make a deal, because they're begging to make a deal. I hope we don't have to do the war, but we may have to give them another big hit. We may have to give them another big hit. I'm not sure yet.
What I think is that the Iranians want to make a deal. What I think is that the Iranians recognize that a nuclear weapon is the red line for the United States of America, that they've internalized.
Oh, no, yeah. Shout out to my man Monty. Long time no see, brother. He says there are 9 countries that give more in lobbying to U.S. above Israel. Why is it framed as if it's anything else? Oh, no. It's not that. We all know that China and other countries got a bigger bag than Israel or more to give. It's where Israel places their money. Israel places their money literally to buy seats, to buy senators, congressmen, presidents. Like Saudi Arabia, they're just working with it. They buy stuff like Saudi Arabia, China. They're pretty much buying influence in certain industries. Like, you actually got to see where they're putting their money to. And yes, they also do try to bribe politicians as well. But Israel, let's be real, the politicians that they buy is mainly corporatists. They support a Chinese-made corporation. They're not really saying, oh, no, we should just do all this for China. Same thing with Saudi Arabia. These guys will be oil guys pretty much because that's what Saudi Arabia and Qatar invest in, the oil industry. So they get their oil lobbyists out there to go convince these guys to keep us pushing into oil. It's where they put their money. Israel puts their money on politicians, and a whole lot of it.
That, but we're not going to know until we're actually putting pen to paper on.
And that's the problem. If other countries was doing that like Israel do, straight towards politicians, we'd be outraged, bro. Let's be real, dog. Like that during that Thomas Massie election, if Saudi Arabia put like $40 million behind Thomas Massie, bro, we'd all be tripping just the same. Like, yo, what the fuck? So that's what I'm saying. When foreign influence comes in and put millions of dollars behind something, it's like, yo, what's going on here?
Signing a deal.
And Trey Yanks is following all of this from Tel Aviv.
Shout out to my man Monty.
Dana, good morning. President Trump and Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu reportedly held a lengthy phone call amid questions about if the war will resume. This comes amid a massive U.S. military buildup across the region, and we're getting some new video that shows U.S. refuelers parked at Tel Aviv's Ben Gurion Airport, waiting in case President Trump orders new strikes against the regime. Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps released a new threat overnight, warning the United States and Israel against launching another bombing campaign. The IRGC put out a statement saying if the aggression against Iran is repeated, the regional war that was promised will this time go beyond the borders of the region, and you will be dealt crushing blows in places you do not expect, and you will...
AKA, they're going to start bombing water desalination centers and energy infrastructure throughout the region to the point where the damage is going to translate over into basically Northern Africa and cause drought and famine. And that's what they're pretty much talking about. I mean, like, bro, it's either that or getting the Houthis involved and shutting down the Red Sea and all that good stuff. There's many ways they could take this. Oh, shout out to my man Monty coming in again. A lot of literally means giving money to politicians. The money coming from those countries is going to politicians. But what for, Monty? What for? Because most of these other guys are going towards corporations that fit their interests. Israel's buying politicians literally to put in seats. Like, that's the thing. These guys are buying lobbyists to go to politicians. Israel is directly getting behind their favorite politician in those elections. And let's be real. Bro, please trace back your favorite highly funded Saudi Arabia politician. I mean, can you find it? Like, that's why it's such a thing, because for some reason we can find all these politicians with hella foreign money put behind them by Israel. You can't really see that for most, but you can't really see that for like China. You can't really see that for Saudi Arabia, Qatar. People get accused of it, but never really any proof. And I mean, let's be real. I don't really see anybody out here so vociferous for China or Qatar or Saudi Arabia like people are for Israel. Like, nobody's willing to cancel you over talking about Saudi Arabia and their bullshit, or the UAE or the Qatar. But people are willing to get on your ass about talking about Israel.
Fall into the abyss of defeat and destruction. The threat comes as President Trump says he was just an hour away from deciding to strike Iran earlier this week and is giving the regime a few additional days to reach a deal.
How close were you to striking Iran?
I was an hour away. We were all set to go. You're talking about yesterday.
Yes.
We were going to be striking it would have been happening right now. Yeah, it was all done. Right? The boats, the ships are all loaded. They're loaded to the brim. And we were all set to start.
As for the possibility of an agreement, reports indicate there are still serious gaps in the positions of the United States and Iran. Vice President J.D. Vance was asked about this process yesterday.
And so what we've done is tried to be as clear as possible. What are our red lines? What are the things that we're willing to be accommodating on? And what are the things that we absolutely must have? And as the president has said ad nauseum, and I think I've said it a lot too, Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon.
Inside Iran, the regime has released new videos showing civilians learning how to use small arms. A variety of similar videos were published.
So yeah, and I was seeing these videos pop up all over X, and they're pretty much just Iranian training videos to pretty much scare us into letting us know that they're ready for a ground invasion, which I always do say. It's like, yeah, these guys are pretty much ready for a U.S. ground invasion, or they wouldn't be teaching their population how to carry AK-47s and Dracos. All right, so again, China's doing the same thing, lobbying. Well, actually, not really, because you can't name me a real Chinese-bought politician. Like, what politician has China literally put into a seat? Like, can you tell me? But we could tell you which one Israel had. They did it like a couple days ago. But all right, so again, China's doing the same thing. Lobbying has nothing to do with corporations. Yes, it does actually. Corporations have lobbying. Remember that. It is a political campaign contribution. Also, more war crimes out of Iran. Shocker. I mean, to arm their this is kind of what we do too. You know that, right? Like, we tell our people to get armed as well. You know that, right? Like, Monty, hold on now.
In recent days as Iran vows to fight the United States.
But I ain't gonna lie though. No. Well, if you're talking about blowing up water desalination centers and energy plants, no, that's for sure a war crime. Now, if you talk about that, which I'm now pretty sure you are, now that's for sure a war crime.
Definitely, we will stand against them, the Americans, and won't give up even an inch of our soil. We are even ready to sacrifice our blood, our lives, instead of giving them an inch of our soil. No matter they come from the sea or land, we will stand by our flag.
Jesus.
Overnight.
And that's why a ground invasion is just not the best thing to do. It's like I said, they got their people holding AK-47. So it's not just the IRGC, but they're training their people as well to come at us as well. So not the best thing. Yeah. I'm speaking about the water desalination plants. Yeah, of course. Okay. Yeah, you're right. I'm about to say not arming the citizens, because Lord knows that's what we do. But destroying water desalination plants. Yeah, that's not something we do though. Yeah. Like Iran, apparently they're trying to take down the entire Middle East, like with them, if need be. That's what I'm thinking. And they're willing to commit. Like I said, this is the escalation dominance that I've been talking about. Even if the escalation dominance mean they commit war crimes, they still got it.
The Israelis held a 5-hour cabinet meeting preparing for the possibility that the war resumes. As the Iranians are talking, the United States and Israel are preparing. Dana?
Trey Yanks in Tel Aviv, thank you.
So with us now, former commander of the USS Cole, Kirk Lippold, is back here. And sir, thank you for coming back to our program, and good morning to you.
Morning, Bill.
What's the smart money say? Are we going back to war or not?
For 47 years, Bill, Iran has used time to their advantage in order to carry out terrorist attacks around the world. I think it's a matter of not if, but when we are going to unfortunately have to continue combat operations, because the Iranians are still coming to.
Here's the thing, like, bro, how hard else could we go? Epic Fury was pretty hard strike, and we didn't get anything done for real. Like I said, regime's still in place. They're showing people how to like fix guns and shit, so the regime is still in place. Then, of course, we got like 1,000. Was it our CIA telling us that they got 70% of their pre-war missiles and drones? So what have we really done? That's what I'm saying. If we resume strikes, what would that accomplish? And it seems like we're resuming strikes because we understand the blockade is going to take too long, and it's only going to further drag on the global economy. So I guess this is, I mean, look, is either we concede to Iran's demands, which is most likely not going to happen, or we do go back to kinetic strikes to see if we can wither them down into, and water down their demands, or get them to concede to ours. but that's just not seeming likely. And shout out to my man Monty, says there are right now 28 Democrats accepting around 200K from China on a quick shirt. 200K from China. I mean, bro accepted 38 million. 38 million, Monty. 38 million. Like, and also, how are they collecting that? Like I said, through lobbying corporation or through directly from China? Like, come on now.
The table. They are refusing to negotiate. They are engaged in information warfare, clearly indicating that the IRGC is unwilling to give up power. So therefore, they're putting the United States in the awkward position, despite this diplomacy, that we are going to have to continue this fight in order to bring them further to their knees and make them realize what our red lines are and that they must give in to them.
They play for time, and they also break agreements. So Jack Keane was on with Hannity last.
And besides, it does say here, direct payments from the Chinese government to U.S. politicians are illegal under federal law. However, several U.S. politicians and their aides have faced scrutiny, federal charges, and under investigations over financial ties, business dealings, or hidden benefits originating. See, that's what I'm saying. They don't give money directly to politicians. Like I said, it's always through some corporate lobbying, financial ties. Will let you get stock here if you let us do this there. See, like, though, it's never really a direct payment. And but look, that's what Israel does. It's not a direct payment from Israel. It's from AIPAC, who is pretty much pro-Zionist, pro-Israel, that give money to their favorite politicians who will vote yes whenever Israel needs some more weapons or funding.
Tonight, he has some thoughts as well. Watch here.
We're 6 weeks into what was supposed to be a 2-week deadline to get a deal.
On week, hell, there was just a mayor admitted to being a damn spy. I mean, yeah, but let's be real though. That's not really going with like funding. That's just, I ain't gonna lie, like that's just espionage at the highest level. Like I'll give you that one. I mean, that's espionage. That really doesn't go into the whole, lobbying and like foreign influence and pushing in money. And here's the thing, like I said, the way Israel do it is through their pact. I mean, if you could show me the Chinese pact that's out here buying politicians, then okay. But China ain't allowed to do it. Russia can't do it. I mean, so Lord knows Saudi Arabia and them can't do it. They got to do it through, well, indirect means.
The reality is they will work very hard and with major acceleration to do what? To turn that deal around, to reverse it, to cheat on it.
And shout out to my man Monty coming in again. He said, that's my point set. It's exactly the same at a larger scale. I guess, yeah, I can see your point on that. I can see your point on that. All right, yeah, I can see your point on that. I still have a little bit of disagreement, but I am starting to see where you're coming from with that one. All right.
And the only way you could ever make a deal that would have a long-term effect would be if we were making a deal with other people, not these people who are running the regime. So there's limitations to the deal itself. And the president's not going to make a bad deal here.
Kurt, even if there was no more war or a return to that or hitting them again, things have changed. The Strait of Hormuz is different and it's closed, at least right now. It's not, nothing is moving. So is there another way around dealing with that problem?
Dana, right now, there is no way unless we return to combat operations.
Like, I'm about to say the same thing. I'm like, yeah, there is no way, because like Iran has already stated that, no, we want permanent administration over the strait. So at this point, is either we just concede it to them or we just blow them the hell out of the strait. That's the only two options we have. If we could even blow them out of the strait. I mean, if we can, fantastic. If not, yeah, we got a problem. Huge.
Clearly, Iran is going to use the Strait of Hormuz and the chokehold that they have on the world's oil supply going out from the Middle East as a leverage point, and we are going to have to engage at some point to do that. General Keane was absolutely correct. When you look at it, it is going to take any deal we have has got to be verified, verified, verified. There is no trust with the Iranians. And at the end of the day, in order to get that strait open, what the last few weeks have given us during this time is not only the ability to kind of give a little bit of crew rest, get some training in, make sure that we can do the maintenance, rearm and refuel. it has also given us the opportunity to build out the target set that is available to us, the Israelis, UAE, and the Saudis, so that if combat operations recommence, it is going to be on a much larger scale. It is going to hit them that much harder. And while the blockade is being...
And it's kind of funny because Iran is watching this and they're like, okay, so pretty much every news pundit is on y'all media is pretty much telling us that you guys are going to resume strikes. So we're just going to take you guys at your word. And that's why they're out here doing pretty much gun demonstrations in the middle of the street. Why? Because, well, we've pretty much told them that, yeah, we're coming back. And it sounds like that's exactly what we're going to do unless Trump has a change of heart or unless, well, the so unless UAE, Saudi Arabia can get a better deal from Iran than Trump can. So if UAE, Saudi Arabia, and Qatar can get Iran to water down their demands, then maybe we can avoid resuming back to kinetic strikes. But if not, then you already know Trump got the equipment in the area. He's ready to go.
Effective. The calculus of the strategic deterrence that's going to be enforced to ensure that we bring the Iranian economy to its knees. We have to start hitting some of those key logistics, transportation nodes, as well as their ability to get oil out, because they cannot be refunded by getting the oil to the world, especially China. We're sending.
No, I give you that one, Monty. No, because I remember I seen that graph too, and it was showing like, what was it? It was like a whole bunch of Middle Eastern countries, and at the top, China, that like low-key gives way more, you know, funding or way more, or pushes their money way more into our politics than Israel. And I would say this: the reason why people harp on Israel is because they're a bit too blunt about it. Like what they did with Massey was way too blunt, way too obvious. They brought somebody out of nowhere, didn't show up to a debate, and they put 38 million behind this guy because like they just had that much confidence that they could just win over his district with just a shitload of money. And this is why people are kind of mad at Israel right now, because they're like, yo, we all know you took Massey out because he never voted in Israel's favor. I know a lot of people want to say, oh, it was from the big, beautiful bill that he voted yes on anyway. They want to say it's from the Epstein files, which it is actually. It is from the Epstein files. Be real with you. It was mainly from the Epstein files and the fact that he always votes no when it comes to Israel. That's why Muriel Edelson and 3 other pro-Zionist billionaires came in on this one. This is what makes it look so bad. This is what I'm saying. Like, no, I personally don't try to be hard on Israel, but Israel makes it hard for me not to. It's just like, bro, really? Like, y'all had to put 38 million into that election. All you had to be pro-Zionist. You could have just, I don't know, funnel it through different means so we didn't find out, and y'all just make it this obvious. So it's like Israel creating their own problems or their own criticisms. But shout out to my man Monty coming in again. Where are the 10 other countries doing it and not a word? Ask yourself why. I know we don't like the Israeli government, but I'm trying to point out all of it. No, honestly, respect for that, because no, we should point out all of it. We should point out all the foreign influence in our government. It's just that the thing that tends to stand out the most would be Israel's influence. Because let's be real though, like this war right now that we're in it is because of Israel in a way. This actually, we're taking care of Israel's enemy. If we was going to war with Taiwan, then we could say, okay, yeah, we need to check into China and who they're influencing. If we was going to sending troops in Sudan, then I'm like, okay, yeah, we need to go ahead and check into this Saudi money or this UAE money. Something's going on here. We're getting involved in their conflicts. But we're getting Israeli money and we're getting caught up in conflicts in the Middle East against countries that they've always been adversarial against. That's the problem. It seems that we actually go in the interest of Israel instead of the interest of China, Saudi Arabia. Because think about it like this. China put all this money into us, and Saudi Arabia puts more money than Israel, UAE, and all of them. Yet we still went into a war that put their countries all in danger, that put their economic security all in danger. And they give us the most money. And we did it all for like the 4th or the 5th biggest donor. It's like, it seems like it's more than money, and it might be more of an ideology to this. Zionism.
A signal in their direction as well.
So the Iranians have a vote in this. They can either give up their nukes and agree to talk about it or not. Here's the Iranian foreign minister with a big claim about an F-35.
Economically, agree. I mean, I don't know about that. Economically, I would say maybe, but considering that we spend like trillions in the Middle East, thousands of people died. Be real with you, man. China ain't cost us all that. They cost millions of people maybe to lose their job and go homeless, but die and trillions spent. I'm not sure about that one, man. I don't know if I could agree with you on that one. But yeah, arguably all of our jobs going to China have been way worse than any war caused by. Nah, I don't know if I agree with you on that.
Watch here. Okay, I'll read it. Okay. Tuesday, 5 o'clock. Months after initiation of war on Iran, U.S. Congress acknowledges loss of dozens of aircraft worth billions. Our powerful armed forces are confirmed as first to strike down a touted F-35. With lessons learned and knowledge we gain, return to war will feature many more surprises. That is not true. No evidence that an F-35 was even came close to being down there. However, if we go back to military action, the Iranians do what then? How do they respond?
Wasn't it the F-16 or I know it was an F-16 that got hit, but the F-35, I don't think they down. No, they didn't down it. They was able to a missile blew up next to it and the shrapnel hit it, but it was able to make it safely out. So they didn't down it, but they did like graze it. The shrapnel hit it.
How would you expect them to respond?
I think they're going to respond with the limited capacity that they have available. They are probably going to take what they have for cruise missile batteries and others, begin to aim at ships throughout the Gulf. They're also going to continue to hit some of the strategic oil facilities in all of the Gulf countries, Kuwait, Saudi Arabia, Oman, Qatar, UAE. They're going to try and strike back at those facilities. And I think the United States has worked very well with our partners throughout the Middle East to ensure that we can protect those facilities. But at the end of the day, Iran is essentially going to wage guerrilla warfare with their ballistic missile and their...
I mean, yeah, if we put boots on the ground, I'm sorry, but this is going to be terrible. Boots on the ground, Iran is like going to be the worst thing we could do. I mean, look, it's best we try to resume airstrikes again. And if that don't work, and if they don't water down their demands, then I don't know what else the hell we could do. I'll be real with you, but putting boots on the ground is not a good thing. I mean, if we do it, we're going to be sitting there going like, look, we could win this, but how many Americans are you guys willing to stomach losing? That's the problem. How many pictures are you willing to see on the news every day of soldiers being lost? How many families are you willing to see never see a loved one again? It's just like, how much can you stomach at that point? In America, well, we can't stomach that much, honestly. But Iran, I mean, oh, hey, man, those Shia Muslim, man, martyrdom culture. So they really don't care.
Missiles and drones throughout.
But shout out to my man Monty. He says fentanyl killing hundreds of thousands, stealing intellectual property, costing us trillions. Okay, now that is a really good argument. All right, now that's a solid argument. I'll give you that one. Now that one I can give you. Like, okay, on the buildup of that, yeah, we could say trillions for sure. I mean, we could possibly say trillions, but we know we spent trillions for sure. But I'm pretty sure if we like the fentanyl killing hundreds of thousands, just like the war did, stealing intellectual property. Well, hey man, at least Iraq and Afghanistan wasn't doing that. So yeah, that is. But you know what? Yeah, I could say the stealing of intellectual property cost millions due to the billions upon trillions of probable profit that they made off stealing that intellectual property. So yeah, I can give you that one.
Area and we're going to have to learn very quickly and adapt. Where are they firing them from, and what do we have to do to take down that capability? Because otherwise, this campaign.
But you know what? Here's the thing, Monty. The problem is that the way China's doing it, I guess, is way more acceptable. I know it's hard to hear this, but it's way more acceptable, and not to me, but way more acceptable to Americans than China, than battling out financially, battling out economically, or through drugs and all that, than actually being dragged into a conflict. Like, we can battle that out with China without skyrocketing gas prices and all that. That's what we were doing in the beginning, having it out with China without prices skyrocketing. Actually, inflation was going down, and so were prices while in a trade war with China. Like, so going at it with China, like economically, that doesn't cause as much damage as going into and getting into it with people in the Middle East militarily.
Could go on,
but you are right though. Shout out to my man Maz. He said just because they're low key about it doesn't mean it isn't happening, and it isn't bad, really bad. No, it is bad. Trust me, all foreign influence is bad. That's why personally I don't believe in sending any money outside the United States. But you see our politicians don't believe in that on either side.
But at the end of the day, Vice President Vance was correct. We cannot negotiate with the people that are in power right now. We need to get some people who are going to be reasonable. Hopefully, we can create that exodus of the leadership of the IRGC and what is left of the mullahs. Let them get out of the country, whether they go to Russia, China, or elsewhere. It doesn't matter. They need to be removed from power so that we can have a fruitful discussion that will allow us to achieve some of the strategic objectives with no nuclear weapons.
Kurt Lippold, thank you so much for being on today with us.
Thank you, Commander.
And all right, now let's get into see what international news talking about. Let's see what they're saying. Good boy.
Iran has revealed a map which shows what it defines as its own area of authority to manage the Strait of Hormuz. It was posted on X under the Persian Gulf Strait Authority. The map shows areas on either side of the strait shaded in red and labeled.
Yo, pretty much saying that, look, man, you got to pay the toll here and you get out through here and then you got to deal with the Americans on the other side. But basically, yes, this is the important. This is it's basically, like I said, a blockade on top of a blockade. Here's the first gate. If you can pay the Iranians and get through, then you got to deal with America and making sure that you don't have any Iranian links to you. And then you can go ahead and get through the U.S. naval blockade. But this is pretty much what Iran is saying, that, yeah, this is now what we run. You got to pay to get through here, which, trust me, we're not going to just take on the chin.
As areas under Iranian armed forces oversight. Those areas indicate waters that partially fall under the sovereignty of Oman and the United Arab Emirates. The blue part is labeled as the Strait Hormuz. Iran is claiming transit control over the area, leaving no space for international waters or competing.
Shout out Bati. He says, look, another war crime from Iran, which is true. Shutting down the strait is a war crime. Shutting down international waterways, that's not good. You're especially when it comes to hurting the global economy and pretty much sending other countries into a food and fuel crisis. Like, that is fucked up. Like, let's not sit here and ever pretend like Iran's innocent in this. The only problem is that this would have never happened if we didn't start this damn war.
Claims. Well, that announcement came as the United States military released footage of the interception of an Iranian-flagged oil tanker in the Gulf of Oman. U.S. Central Command says it suspected the vessel was trying to breach the blockade. The ship was later released after American forces carried out a search and ordered the crew to change course. In other developments, Iran says it is weighing its response to the latest U.S. proposal to end the war. A spokesman for the foreign ministry repeated Tehran's demands for the release of frozen assets and an end to the U.S. blockade of Iranian ports. This comes after Pakistan's interior minister visited Tehran this week as part of mediation efforts. Let's speak to Rob Gase.
AKA, bro, these guys are showing their ass right now. Like, they're literally going for it all. They're acting like we didn't do anything to them, and they're coming out with their maximalist demands. And here's the thing. This could either be a facade or basically them just actually having the cards. And we're going to have to wait to see. Because honestly, in my personal opinion, it kind of just seemed like they got the card since we wasn't able to knock them over with Operation Epic Fury.
Penfold about these latest developments. He's an international security lecturer at King's College London and a senior non-resident fellow at the Gulf International Forum, and is joining us from London. Rob, good to have you with us on Al Jazeera. The Iranians saying that they're reviewing.
And he said it would have been nah. You know, I'm always going to disagree with you on that one, but shout out to my man Monty. He said it would have been worse if we did it. No, I think we'd have been pretty good. I mean, here's the thing. Like I said, my argument is always going to be the pattern of aggression when it comes to Iran. Every time we get more aggressive towards Iran, that's when they progress towards a nuclear weapon. And like I said, even when it came to Trump tearing up the JCPOA, killing Qasem Soleimani, labeling IRGC a terrorist group, pretty much invoking back the sanctions. Like, this is what pushed Iran towards a nuke, or actually what pushed Iran towards that 60% enrichment that we're upset about today. So if we want to stop Iran from getting a nuke, we understand Iran can't have a nuke. Well, these acts of aggressions only seem to be pushing them towards that nuke. And if we keep doing it and they pop off with a nuke, then I mean, I guess I'm going to be vindicated, but I don't want to be vindicated. But sadly, it's looking like the more we push on Iran, the more that we're going to push them towards that nuke. If we lay off them now, we can at least get a deal where they'll let the inspectors back in and they'll promise to keep it at that 60%. But I don't know, if we resume strikes, these guys might rush towards that nuke. And that's my worst fear. Because once they get a nuke, we can't do shit to them. And they control the strait at that point. And I don't really want to know what the world looks like after that. But it ain't going to be in our favor, I'll tell you that.
Doing the latest U.S. response to the 14-point plan, what does this signal to you? Does it signal that the diplomacy is still alive, or is this just a delay tactic while both sides prepare for the next round?
Well, Folly, it seems that both sides are in this strange situation, which is actually something that manifests quite frequently in international politics, but it's still a strange situation where neither side really wants a return to war, but both sides want to show that they are ready to return to war if necessary. Now, when it comes to Iran, it seems to be, based on media reports coming out of Iran, that Tehran feels that its hand is strengthening. The longer this impasse continues, time is basically on its side. Don't forget, of course, that Iran has de facto control over the Strait of Hormuz. This is something it did not have before the start of the war. The longer it can basically prolong this strange ceasefire, this kind of phase between conflicts that we're in at the moment, the more...
I'm sorry, that is funny though. Shout out to my man Monty. He says, will they promise us S.E.T? Will they pinky promise? Cross their hearts with all their fingers crossed? okay, I'll give you that one. It is a long shot. That is a leap of faith we'd have to be taking. But here's the thing. If we can't do it through force, it's a leap of faith we're going to have to accept. That's the problem. And I know you don't want to accept that leap of faith, neither do I. But that's what they're telling us, and that's their demands. And if we can't pretty much get these guys off them, or if I think the Senate, actually I'm not even sure if Trump will be able to keep going, really, because then the Senate vote against his war power, but we'll see where that goes. But let's say he is. If this second Operation Epic Fury Part 2 doesn't give us anything, and we just waste further munitions and all that good stuff, then we're just gonna have to concede and admit that, yeah, there's really nothing we could do with Iran right now. We're just gonna have to just try to get along, I guess. But it's gonna be under their terms when it comes to the Strait. Like I said, that's gonna look terrible for Trump because we weren't in this situation before this war of choice.
More likely it is that Iran can basically create facts on the ground that
And Monty, you got to understand, like the way everybody else see this is that, if Trump didn't get into this war of choice with Iran, the Strait wouldn't be closed. Like, that's how most people see this. Not everybody see it as, well, if we didn't do this, they were going to do it eventually. Like, trust me, not too much people see that, but there are, never mind. A lot of people see it like that. So let me just keep it real. But let's be real. There's like a decent amount of people who also think it the different way. Just like, nah, I think we should just stay out of this.
French its hold over the Strait of Hormuz. This is, of course, the Gulf state's worst nightmare, but it shows that for Iran, time is on its side.
What are we to make of this map that Iran has released showing its area of control of the Strait, what it defines as its area of control?
But like, Monty, you got to understand, though, I beat the kid and everything, and the kid pulled out a gun, and now he's doing meth in front of me. And I've tried everything, dog. I've tried the whoopings, I've tried the waterboardings, but somehow the kid got the gun, and now the kid's doing meth in front of me. There's nothing I could do, bro. That's the situation that we're kind of in right now. It's like, there's really nothing we can do, bro. We tried everything. And now they're making sure that we can't keep them from doing meth. That's the situation we're in. They're making sure we can't keep them from closing the Strait. They're making sure we can't keep it. They're making sure we can't regime change them. It's just what it is, sadly. I know as much as we want to say, don't let Iran get nukes, aka don't let your kids do meth. Well, what if they're able to keep you away and do the meth anyway?
And if the U.S. is maintaining naval pressure around Iranian ports and the Strait, how much leverage does Tehran really still have?
Well, that map is very much declarative rather than actually a representation of events on the ground or the state of play on the ground, because simply put, the Strait of Hormuz is, of course, contested. Iran doesn't have control over the entire strait. There are, of course, U.S. forces there as well, attempting to intercept.
Yeah, on the Gulf of Oman, pretty much. They're like over there, we're over here on the edge, and this is what Iran controls, as we're over there on the side. So like I said, it's like checkpoint 1, and then checkpoint 2 would be us.
Iranian vessels or Iranian flagged vessels, and of course that map, as you mentioned, it basically contradicts or impedes upon UAE and Omani waters as well. So that's very much.
Don't do me like that. I tried my best. We tried our best, Monty. We tried our best. We bombed them. I mean, we blew up ships. We blew up airplanes, buildings, people, and still didn't get what we want. So I just don't know what else to do. What else we could do, dog? Like, what else you want to do? Nuke them? If we do that, then they might definitely go towards a nuke if we don't finish the job. But like I said, there's like, what else can we do? We tried everything. And if we want to resume strikes and those get the same results, then we're just going to be sitting there looking stupid. Like, well, we tried Operation Epic Fury. We got to conclude that one. Now about to start up new operations and what? Just resume strikes inside of Iran again. Like, and for how long? What, 2-3 weeks? And then we'll just stop again and they'll still be standing. I mean, hopefully not. Hopefully the second time does the job, but I'm gonna be real with you. It doesn't really sound like it will, but I'm hoping that they don't even get back into it. But if they do, I mean, best of luck. Hopefully we can get that job done.
A case of saber rattling from the Iranians, but it seems to be that Iran is basically trying to say, look, we are not going anywhere soon.
He's like, abortion is an option. I mean, adoption is an option, and so is abortion. Well, hey, look, man, ain't nobody gonna adopt this Iran problem from us. And like I said, I mean, I guess nuking Iran would be the abortion option. Sorry, we're relating Iran to a kid that's doing meth, and that's like the kid. We're trying to stop the kid from doing meth, aka stopping Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. And apparently, bro, we failed. We failed, Monty. There's really nothing we could do. Like I said, what else can we do to Iran that we haven't done already? We already killed the Ayatollah, and then they got a new one, a more hardline one that might be coming out with like an eye patch eye and a robotic arm and a peg leg. Like, I'm sorry, but there really is nothing else for us to do with Iran besides keep bombing them to try to get our way. And if that don't work, then what? We're just going to keep on going into this forever war until Iran eventually gives away, or we just walk away. That's the quagmire people are talking about. Like, if we resume strikes, like, will there be any improvement here? Or are we going to be in the same positions, forced to pause and then keep on going during this constant back and forth into what, next year? Hopefully not, but like I said, we'll see.
Have fought hard for control over the Strait of Hormuz. We've managed to exercise de facto control over the Strait of Hormuz, and this is not something that's going to change war, ceasefire, or peace. This is now a key Iranian demand in talks to cement its control over the Strait, which is a stranglehold over the Strait. It doesn't need to control everything that goes on.
Oh God, for those of y'all still in here, man, if you haven't already, make sure to double tap that screen, like the video, or not double tap the screen, but just smash that like button and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already.
In that waterway, all it needs to do is have the proven means and ability to disrupt shipping, which is unfortunately what it has proven it has done and is continuing to do.
So do you think that increases the likelihood that there could be a deal first on Hormuz before a broader deal on the nuclear issue is reached?
Yeah.
Well, this is what we're hearing is the latest.
Yeah, I believe actually, I don't even think that's on the table anymore. That wasn't the old deal. The old deal that Iran proposed that, yeah, we'll go ahead and release the Strait, you release the blockade, everybody's happy. Now Iran's saying, yo, scrap that. That was back when we were cool with you. Now it's just F you guys, and we control this part of the Strait. You can just do what you do over there, but people are going to pay our fees and pass through, and you're going to let them pass because they're not associated with us. So good luck with that. And that's where we are.
Pakistani and Qatari proposal that basically both sides reach a deal to end the war and open the Strait of Hormuz before then going on to the other issues. Now, this would alleviate economic pressure. It would basically roll back Iran's influence over and control over the Strait of Hormuz. Sure.
Hey, and shout out to my man Monty for the baller alert. To support my brother. He says, sorry for those who don't know what the hell I'm talking about. It's an inside joke. Also later said, I got to get up early for the Starship 12 launch. You should tune in at 5:30 p.m. I will actually. Eastern time. The Starship V3 is going to be crazy. Hey, now shout out. Shout out to my man Monty, and sadly, bro, I gotta go too in a couple minutes myself because the sun has rise and it's basically, yes, the sun has risen. I started this live when it was dark, and now it's literally morning time. Like, I can see the kids going to school. That's how early it is. All right, let's go.
But it would mean that all of the tough issues that caused this war in the first place, would be deferred into until a later date. So yes, it might give some breathing room in the short term, but it would not be a definitive end to the war and hostilities in the long term. It would mean that there is still every chance that this that another round of conflict could erupt again if those talks don't go any further.
Right. And I wanted to ask you, Rob, about Pakistan's role, of course, as a mediator, but also China. We heard the Chinese again yesterday condemn this war on Iran. How much influence does China have right now on the outcome of the country? And why has it chosen to take a step back, I guess?
All right, and all right, cool. Oil futures did drop a little bit. I think they were like, what, at 110 yesterday? Yeah, yesterday was like at 110. Right now, they're sitting at Brent crude, sitting at $106. Even currently is doing that. WTI is still over 100. It's not good, but it's better than 110, and Brent crude sitting at like 105. So, I mean, slight improvement. Slight improvement. For somebody probably releasing their oil reserves as we speak. But all right.
To not be as involved as some people were expecting it to be involved.
Well, it's interesting, of course, that President Trump was in China very, very recently whilst those talks were going on. But I think when it comes to China, often in the West, we have this misapprehension that, you know, Russia, China and Iran are all in cahoots together. At the end of the day, this is what the Iranians would also like. They would like China to be willing to basically do what is necessary to defend Iran. That is simply not the case. China has very diverse and competing interests in the Middle East. It has very, very close economic and political ties to the Gulf states, for example, as much, even more so than it has to Iran in some cases. So China is not going to bat for Iran here. And at the same time, it's probably quite happy to let the US keep prolonging the stalemate, keep looking, frankly, quite silly, like its military power cannot deliver the shock and awe military victory that President Trump was hoping for. And basically, it's that old adage, you know, never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. China is quite happy for the US to show that its security umbrella is not as secure as it would like.
Yeah, literally. It's like, honestly, China is now salivating at the mouth over Taiwan right now because they've seen that we can't even take out Iran. We can't even release Iran, the 16th strongest army in the world, not even in the top 10. We can't even release them off the Strait of Hormuz. So China's sitting over there salivating over Taiwan, going like, well, if you can't stop them, then you most likely can't stop us. And we might just take that risk. China, not China, but Russia, well, they're over there taking notes. They're over there taking notes, going like, all right, that's what it does. All right, fantastic. That's what it does. Oh, great. So all of our, main adversaries are actually benefiting from this in a way. I mean, Russia gets to sit there and take notes and give weapons to Iran to test out against us. And China, well, they get to sit there and watch us waste munitions while they salivate over taking Taiwan, which they could possibly do right now. And then they can nudge Iran and be like, yeah, go ahead and pop it off with America. And while we're over here taking care of Iran, we'll be too strained to actually go over there and help out with Taiwan. And it'll just be an easy takeover.
To claim, and of course, the fact that the US is military.
If I could sit here and think about that, you don't think Xi has, and he's probably not doing it for like, you know, what political reasons, but let's be real. If there's ever a time to do it, it'd be now.
Force is a bit of a blunt instrument when it comes to things like regime change. So China has very, very complex and diverse.
Really? If I was a Chinese official, I'd be like, gee, bro, you missing your chance. They're in war with Iran right now, bro. CIA reports saying that their missile stockpiles are, we could take Taiwan right now. They just going to take it on the chin. Like, come on, bro, you messing up. Just do it. Like, okay, yeah, like I said, be happy I'm not in China.
Interest here. It's unlikely to come out for one side or the other overnight.
Interesting to talk to you as always. Thank you so much for your insight, Rob Gay-Spinfold from King.
Yeah, exactly. And here's the thing. That's what they're actually doing. They're seeing what's in our arsenal. They're seeing the way our missiles go. They're seeing the way our jets perform, and they're tweaking their systems for it. Even the way Iranian drones are hitting, don't you think they're going like, so the drones are effective? all right, let's see if we could tweak it to make it better, faster, like more explosive. Let's see what we could do here since they're effective, but may not cause as much damage. Like I said, our enemies are on the ground and are in the background taking notes right now. And like I said, Russia sees the same thing. It's like, maybe I shouldn't be so afraid of US since, I mean, how are they going to stop me from taking Ukraine if I just go all in? I mean, they can't even take on Iran. It's like, this is the image that this is going to give our adversaries. And that's the last thing we want these guys to have, is that type of confidence. Like, bro, like you don't even want to imagine what it'd be like if China and Russia had that type of confidence I'm talking about. We trust me, you're going to see the end of Taiwan. You're going to see the end of Ukraine. Well, the end of Ukraine probably sped up. But yeah, we don't want to see that at all. We don't want to see our enemies win. The hell. But all right, let's get into it real quick here. Or never mind. Can't even do it. All right. I'm ran down on time, guys. I ran down on time. Or AKA, I'm all out of time. But all right, guys, I'm gonna head out on this one. Now, like I said, I'm gonna be doing live streams from now on, guys. Apparently, the vertical streams were damaging the channel's reach and engagement, so we got to go to the vertical, not vertical, but the horizontal streams from now on for the next week or so. See what's going on. Probably do a vertical stream like once or twice a week. But until then, just bear with me. Make sure to hit your notifications, and I'm still gonna go live at least every day. But all right, guys. I'm gonna catch you guys on the next one. This is Set with Set Media. Peace. Yo, this is Set with Set Media, man. I'm here to talk to you about our partner, Kalshi. Kalshi is the largest legal prediction market in the United States with over 1 million users. It's available in all 50 states. They are a real money market. People trading on what they think will happen. You can build a position and trade in and out of almost any prediction you think. Kalshi facilitates trade between people, kind of like the stock market. There's no limiting your trades just because you're winning. Kalshi will pay you interest on your position. So if you make a long-term trade, you can earn a return even before the market is resolved. If you want to try out Kalshi, go ahead and give them a try, guys, at my link, kalshi.com/setmedia. Get $20 when you trade 20, so it's 20 for 20, guys. Once again, that's kalshi.com/setmedia. Go ahead and use my code setmedia to get $20 when you trade 20. Let's go ahead and take a look here at Kalshi, because like I said, it is a trading market where you can put in your prediction and you can go ahead and earn interest on that. You can make money off the knowledge that you know, and if you put $20 in, you get $20 back. So all right, guys, make sure to go check out my guy at Kalshi, because you can get in on good trades like who Trump nominated as Fed chair, will Ali Khamenei be outed as the supreme leader, and will the US confirm that aliens exist before 2027. So if you want to get in on this action, once again, go ahead and go to my partners at Kalshi. Go ahead and use the link, or you can hit the QR code above and use Set Media to go ahead and get $20 when you trade 20. This is Set from Set Media, and shout out to Kalshi.